It's a little handbook, home buying guide. Got a lot of information in it. When you take it home, if you want, you can read over it. Some of the stuff I talk about today, you're probably going to find it in this book. And let me show you how to use the book real quick. So when you first open it up, you're going to see a roadmap, right? Because there's steps to buying a home. And a lot of times people don't get their blessing because they go in the wrong steps, right? So this class is designed to show you step by step in the proper order of what we need to do to be able to help your family get a home, okay? So in the way you read this book is every single step. When you start to open a book, it's going to give you more clarity on each one of those steps. Okay. On the other side, you got a blank piece of paper. That's in case you want to write some notes or write some questions down. Sometimes I may say, write this down, right? And then it's something that's kind of like homework. Go back on your own time, take a look at it. Because sometimes when I say things, people are like, well, you know what? I need to double check that to see if this man is saying the truth, right? So I'll say, write it down and then go back and check it out, okay? Now, this page right here is the actual syllabus. It's the topics we're going to cover today. So we're going to keep that one out. And then this one right here with the number 5. Once we get the credit, we're going to actually use this one to talk about credit scoring. So probably want to keep the one that says the first step to buying a home, and then the one that says 5 factors of credit scoring. And then a lot of this other stuff we're going to have up on the screen here. So if you want, you can pull it out. If not, we're going to have it on the screen. All right. So like I said, we've been doing this probably for 22, 23 years. How I got my start is I try to buy a house, just like you guys probably try to buy a house. But I was in the military in San Diego. And when I walked in to try to get finance, they just said, hey, you don't make a lot of money. You could probably afford like maybe $90,000 in San Diego. Good luck with that, right? And I just said, well, I can't buy nothing for that amount. So maybe I'm just too young, right? I think I was probably like maybe 20 years old, right? And I just, you know what? Because somebody told me this is all I could get, I just didn't do anything, right? Fast forward a couple years later, I'm now in Florida. I'm a military recruiter. I was in charge of an entire county. I had other sailors that worked under me. My rank was higher than them, but when they came to Florida, they're like, I got a house in Orlando. I got a house in Virginia. I'm like, wait a minute, I outrank you. How do you have a house and I don't have one, right? So I'm like, you know what? If these guys can get a house, I'm going to try again to get a house. So when I was in Florida, over by Tampa Bay, Florida, I went to the banks. They looked at my pay stubs. They looked at my credit and everything. And they say, listen, you only qualify for about $93,000. Back then, and where I lived at in Florida, the houses that were old, like 20, 30 years old, starting prices was over $200,000 because it was close to the white sandy beaches, right? So I said, okay, maybe again, I don't know what it is. Maybe I don't make enough money, but I don't understand because I make more money than that guy over there. But they just never told me what I needed to do. So I said, you know what? I'll just keep grinding, keep getting promoted in rank, make more years in the military. Maybe my income will go up, and then I'll revisit getting a home. Fast forward some more years. I'm out the military, came to Houston to take a job. And I said, you know what? Now I can settle down, get a house. Houses are way cheaper in Texas than in Florida and California. So I said, surely I can get me a house. So what I did was, got me an apartment first, was going to stay in it for a year, kind of figure out this Houston thing. And I went down to Countrywide Home Loans over by Willowbrook Mall. If you've been around for a while, there used to be Countrywide Home Loans. It's one of the biggest banks in America before they collapsed, right? Went over there, sat down, they pulled my credit, they got my income stuff. And they say, hey, sir, you qualify for about maybe $93,000 to $98,000. I'm like, y'all been telling me I qualified for like 8.5 years because I did 8.5 years in the military. And then I was reservist when I went to go apply, right? So I had a year in the reserve. And I was like, listen, I'm an E6 in the military. I got a civilian job making money. I got the Navy reserves. Like, why do I only qualify for 93? Now, I could have gotten a house for that. Like, back then, houses were cheap. I could have probably got like an $89,000 house in Katy off of Barker, Cypress, right? Like, move away from the city. But I said, you know what? Something ain't right here. And I went down there in uniform on my weekend as a reservist, right? Thinking if I walk in my uniform, I got my bling bling, my ribbons, and my warfare pin, that maybe they was going to show me some favor, right? But it don't work like that. To these banks, it's all about math. It's about numbers, right? So I said, listen, lady. Her name was Rhonda Thomas. I said, Rhonda, Miss Rhonda, please tell me, why do I only qualify for like in the 90s? Everybody's been telling me that for years. And she said, let me tell you what. Sit down. Okay. Let me pull up your credit. Okay, great. You got, I think I had like probably like a 680 credit score. I don't know if that was good or bad, but I'm thinking maybe I got bad credit. That had nothing to do with the credit. She said, let me show you these car payments on your credit. She said, hey, you got a Ford motor credit. I'm like, yeah, that's my Mustang Cobra convertible. So when you're in the military and they give you the food, they give you the housing, they give you the clothes, they give you the medical, what you do with your money? You buy fancy cars and motorcycles, right? So I had a $34,000 car that I got when I was like 19 years old, right? And there's $550 a month. That don't sound like a lot of money today, but we talk about 25, 30 years ago, right? That would be like a car payment of $1,100 a month today.
Yeah.
So she said 550. I said, okay, so a lot of people in the military got, nice cars, right? And she said, but you got another car. You got a truck. I got a Ford Explorer. I'm from the country. I'm from West Virginia. So you got to get the truck, get it lifted up, right? So I said, well, yeah, that's the truck. She said, but it's also $550 a month. I'm carrying $1,100 a month, but that's what you do in the military, right?
Yeah, that was your house.
Yeah, it's because they always paid for my rent. So she said, listen, let me tell you something. It's a formula. For every $100 a month that you have in debt on your credit report that you obligated to pay, you drop by $10,000 on your purchase price on a house, your purchase price.
Wow.
So I said, wait a minute. Now I did algebra 2, that's my highest math, and I failed. I had to go to summer school, pick it back up, right? So I said, but I know a little bit of multiplication and math, right? So you telling me that these 2 car payments is equal to a $110,000 house, and I'm already approved for like 90. So if I'm approved for 90 and did not have the cars, I'd qualify for a $200,000 house. Do you know what type of house you could have got back in 2002 for $200,000? Yeah. And I actually bought a house. I think my 34th house right over here in Spring. I got it for $198, 4,200 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 3.5 bath, right over here off the feeder road. I could have got a lot for $200,000. So when she told me that, I said, wait a minute. I'm making all these payments on a car, and it wasn't like my first and second car. I kept buying the car and then flipping it, get another one, get another one, get another one, right? And what I did with these 2, I did a 5-year term. There was no 7-year terms back then. It was like 5 years, right? But I already paid more than 3 years off. So I said, because my car payments are high, then my amount that I qualify for a home is low. She said, yeah. I said, I'll be right back. I walked out, was on the curb, like literally looking at the cars on Highway 6, got my StarTAC phone, remember the flip phones?
Yeah.
Put a little antenna up.
Yeah.
I called Navy Federal, and I said, listen, I'm trying to get a house. This lady inside says that for every $100 a month I got in debt, I lose $10,000 in purchase price. And I said, is there any way I can refinance this car? Like right now on the phone, right? And they said, not a problem. They did some numbers. I said, man, you got to get that payment down low. They brought the $550 per car payment down to $250 per car. So I took $1,100 monthly debt and I dropped it to $500 while I was standing on the curb over by Williamsburg Mall. Now back then we still use fax machines. And I said, can you fax the new payment and the new terms? And I'll give you Miss Rhonda's fax number from her card. So I went back in. I said, listen, Miss Rhonda, I don't have $1,100 monthly debt. I got $500 monthly debt. She said, well, what'd you do? I'm like, I just refinanced my car. And they're going to send it to you on a fax. As soon as she got it, she's like, you're right. Let me update the debt in the computer. And all of a sudden, my pre-approval jumped to like $143,000. I took my butt all the way to Katy. I had a real estate agent that was working as a secretary at the front office where I used to work at. And anytime you say you're going to buy a house, somebody is going to hear you. I'm a real estate agent, right? So it was the secretary at the desk. Oh, you're looking to buy a house? I'm a real estate agent. Yeah. I didn't care if she had experience. I was so happy to have her pre-approval. And she said, hey, let's go look at some houses. And I said, listen, I want to give me a nice house. I'm only qualified for 140. So we went all the way to Katy, right where that J.C. Penney's is out there, right? Grand Parkway goes right through a neighborhood called Williamsburg Parish. I got my first house. It was in 2002, 4-bedroom. It was 2.5 bath. It was a 2-story. and it had 2 living rooms. They have a family room and a living room. Like where I'm from in West Virginia, you lucky if you get 1 family room, right? This thing had 2 family rooms in it. It had a 2-car garage. When I grew up in West Virginia, we never had no garages. We just had a little 900 square foot home where me and my mom and my parents, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna get a 2-car garage. I got a yard. I've got 2.5 bathrooms. The house I grew up had 1 bathroom for me, my brother, my mom, and my dad, right? And I said, man, this is unbelievable. And I would have missed a blessing over some silly math that I didn't understand. And listen, when I put that contract on the house, my butt moved in within 30 days on that house. It happened quick.
How much was the house?
It was $132,000. I wrote all my closing costs in, so I had VA and I had put no money down except for the low deposit. Yeah, that was my experience of buying my first home. But this is what it taught me. Think about this. Y'all know that houses cost more in California, right? So what would it have looked like if I wasn't ignorant and I would have got like a little condo or something in San Diego instead of getting all these cars, right? The market in California typically quadruples, right? So I could have got me back then, probably like a 110, 120 little 2-bedroom condo in San Diego. San Diego, very expensive, right? Way more expensive than LA. And if that thing would have went up, and it did go up, right? Because remember the housing crash, right? Everything went up.
Yeah.
I could have flipped that joker probably for $400,000, $500,000.
Yeah, easily.
Then I rode to Florida. Well, guess what happens in Florida? When the prices go up, Florida typically doubles. I could have paid cash for a $200,000 house in Florida. That thing would have doubled. I would have been sitting on $400,000 by the time I left in December of 2001 to come out here. So I would have had probably from the California home, probably about $200,000 to $300,000. Plus I would have walked away with another $200,000 in Florida. That'd be $500,000 in 2002 when I rode over here. I could have bought me a fabulous home for $200,000 and set that $300,000 in the bank. This was like, you do the math, we in 2026, this was 2002. Did you know if I would have put that money in an interest-bearing account of like 7%, like in the stock market, and it was flipping every 6 years, I probably wouldn't be here today because I'd be retired, right? So it was my lack of knowledge that stole the blessing from me. A wise king once said, my people perish for what? Lack of knowledge.
So what you gotta know can't hurt you.
It can't hurt you big time, right? And make you end up working in your older age. So that's why when I got the opportunity to get into home sales after that first job that I got when I got out the military, for me, I said, you know what? I think I'm just going to tell everybody what happened to me. And then whatever issue or problem they got, we're going to figure out how to solve it. And that's what I've been doing for over 20 years. You got issues with credit? No big deal. I know the math behind the credit. I'm going to show you. We'll fix it. You don't have no money for down payment. There's government grant programs out there. There's all kind of loans. You don't even have to have down payment money. All kind of stuff. And that's why I've been doing this for 22 years because of what happened to me. But the main thing is I know by having a house, what having a house also did to me. Anybody in here like working 40, 50 hours a week just to go to a place that you'll never own? Right?
Right.
We all know about that, right? And listen, my first experience on that house, even when the market crashed in 2008, I held on to it. I made it a rental property. And I turned around and sold that house for $168,000. I was still young when I sold it. I'm like, wait a minute. You gonna give me some money from the sale of the house that I never paid into the house because I got it for like 132, 134. I sold it for 168. Plus I paid the balance them. They gave me a big old check at closing. I'm like, you know how long it would take somebody to make this in a year? And so I just sold a house and they just gave me a check. So what I learned from owning a house, hindsight's 2020 because I'm looking back 20 years. In our area, houses typically go up in value about 3 to 4% every year. So if you buy a house at 100,000 and you just hold it for 1 year, next year it's going to be worth like 104. You just paid $4,000 for doing what? Making your mortgage payment, right? You pay rent, you don't get nothing when you leave. And now 104, you let it ride for another year, the 104 times 3%, right? And they just keep going up. And I said, wait a minute, owning a house is kind of like owning a bank. You using somebody else's money, because that's what they do. The banks use your money, and then they turn around and lend it to your friend in a credit card, a car pay. But you use the bank's money, you get your house keep going up in value, and when you sell it, you get to keep all that additional money that you didn't really work for, except you just kept making the payments. So I said, well, I'm gonna keep on buying houses, and that's what I did. I bought the house that Katie made money. I bought some townhomes off of 1960 and TC just about a Walmart. I bought some over there off of 90 and the Beltway 8 over by I think it's Somerville over there somewhere. And I bought this house over here for $198. I just sold it last summer for $430,000.
That's okay.
Big win, right? For a country bunker like me from West Virginia, we ain't never seen no money like that. But you got to live somewhere. You got to pay somebody for shelter. You might as well pay yourself and then take the bank's money to get the loan and then let that thing ride. Because you just never know what's going to happen. See? So when people, yeah, and that's why when people say when you buy a house, that's probably the best investment you can get. Because think about it, your bank account, even if you put one lump sum of money, it ain't going up 3 to 4% like that, and compounding every year. So the people that have houses, if you ever listen to the news, they will say the reason why certain people got money is because they own a home. The money is tied up into their equity. And that's why they say if you don't own a home, that's why they try to come out with programs, because as you get older, you may not have nothing. Because the house is the #1 way that you create wealth in America. Make sense? So this is why I'm here. This is why I'm passionate about this, because I saw some stuff that I didn't even know exists. My parents didn't even know that. My parents didn't even get a house until they was like in their late 30s and 40s. And they didn't understand this. So I hope you guys can kind of get an understanding of what I'm trying to tell you here. It's not just simply replacing rent for a mortgage payment. This thing is going to change your life when you get a home. Like financially, it's going to change your life. I'll give you another example. So my grandma, she's a single mom, 9 kids. We talk about way back in the 70s, right? So she got a special program that allowed her to get a house in the suburbs. They had a special program. Come on in, see with us. So when she got this special program, it's because she lived in a house that was built in like the 1800s. And it was built with wood, and it was falling apart. It was dangerous. It's like you fall through the floor, right? So the county said, you know what? We're going to take this single mom. We got a special program. We're going to put her in the suburbs, and she's going to be able to get a brand new house. Because she had that house, over the years, it started going up in value, right? So the emotional thing about the house is when she had her kids, even when they kind of left, they always came back, right? She had a lot of daughters. My mom is the second oldest, right? She had 2 boys and the rest was girls. But, you know, the girls would go mess with the guys would run away, and then they come back to mama's house, right? It was always like a refuge, right? Even my uncles, right? Because they never got married, so they would go out, get in trouble, unless they got locked up in prison, right? And when they got locked up in prison, you need money for attorneys. Well, guess what grandma used to do? Leverage your house to get the attorneys. It could have been worse if she didn't get attorneys, because if you have no attorney and you get one appointed to you, then you're going to probably do the whole 25 years, right? So many times she used her house, yes, as a refuge, but to get that equity to save her sons.
Yeah.
And after 30 years of working as a painter, the company she worked for, they shut down. So they didn't have to pay her pension. So she in her 60s now, no retirement, only SSI that she paid into. So she had to keep working. She worked at a nursing home for about 10 years until she found out about this thing called a reverse mortgage. A reverse mortgage is if you got a bunch of equity in your house and you get to a certain age in your mid-60s, you don't have to make the house payment anymore. And the equity in your house, the bank pays you a check. You can get it every month. You can get it every quarter. You can take a lump sum because they know eventually you're going to pass away, right? Which she did at 81. So the amount of money that she was getting every month, she learned how to drive her car at 50. She got herself a brand new car. And By the time she passed away, she still had money left in that house. Each one of her surviving kids, which it was now 8, they all got $5,000 check as an inheritance. And it's all from her house.
That's like the equity in her house, so she
Yep.
got a chance to borrow off of, and then they get the house, right?
So what happens is the bank will make payments from your equity to you. But the thing is, they know you're going to pass away in a certain time because you can't get that until you like in your mid 60s, right? So they're saying you're probably going to live to be like another 10, 15, 20 years and you got so much equity. Let's do the math. And they know how the house goes up in value. So when the house goes up in value, you got more equity, right? So it's a mathematical equation, right? So if there's any money left over, then the bank and her will, she had it where they were going to sell it. So then the money can go to the kids. So she sold it to somebody in her church. So she didn't want the kids to fight over the house. So she already had it. It's going to be sold to the brother in the congregation, and whatever's left, my kid's going to get the money divided by 8. They each got 5,000. So this is a single mom hustling since the 70s. When she passed away, she actually had an inheritance to leave for her kids. That's the power what a house can do. It's like a bank. It keeps going up in value. You got money that's tied to it. Make sense? Okay. So let's get into the first step of the process, which is always credit. See, a lot of times people, when they go buy a car, they go to the car lot and they say, well, I'm gonna just see if there's something I like first. And then we figure out the finance. And you know, even if you got not so great credit, there's always gonna be somebody that could give you a car loan, right? So we just said, well, I don't care about the credit. Let me see if I find something I like. And if I really like something, then I'll just have to deal with the consequences, right? But the mortgage is different. You're going to have a decent credit score. You want to have a decent credit score because think about it, like a car, you can get a car for 15, 20,000. So if you get a 9% rate, no big deal. You imagine getting a 9% rate on a mortgage over 30 years? Even at a 6% rate, if you buy a house at 200,000 and you make your bare minimum payments over 30 years, that $200,000 house, you end up paying $400,000. You pay twice the amount for the house because it's stretched out so long. Make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why you got to make sure you understand how credit works. So again, you guys got this flyer, the 5 factors of credit score. I'm just going to put mine down because I like pointing at the screen. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. Now, who can tell me what a credit score is? And I know it's a number, but what does it represent?
Your debt.
Your debt?
How much your income and your debt.
Okay.
How you pay bills?
How you pay bills?
I think we should report card.
Report card? I like that one.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Credit worthiness.
Credit worthiness? Yeah. Ain't no wrong answer. You get an A for participation. That's how they do it these days, right? So it's a risk factor. If someone says, hey, can I borrow some money? My thinking is, well, what's the chance you're going to pay me back? And what's the chance you're not going to pay me back? And even if you do pay me back, are you going to pay me on time? Right? So that credit score, I can look at a credit score and I can know exactly how you make your payments. Whether you make the payments late, if you don't make the payments, it's because it's an algorithm, right? And it's broken down into 5 factors. So I know that there's multiple types of credit scoring software. Just in FICO itself, there's FICO 2, that's what mortgage companies use. There's a FICO auto, right? There's a FICO 8, there's a FICO 10. It's a bunch of FICOs. The reason why it's a bunch of FICOs is because it's a bunch of different industries out there, right? So if you're going to go buy a car, the automobile industry got a special FICO scoring system just for the automobile industry. Just like mortgages, we got a FICO 2. It's been like that forever. But now they just passed a new rule that they rolling out Vantage to also now give mortgages to compete with FICO. Okay, so there's many types of FICOs, which means there could be many ways that they look at credit. So using this as a baseline, I'm using a TransUnion FICO where the lowest score in that model is 309 and the highest is at 839. Now, the reason I'm telling you that, because some of you might have these credit monitoring deals and you might say, well, I got an 850 credit score, right? And you'll say, but Corey said the highest you can go is 839. Well, no, there is a FICO model that you can get an 850. And if it's an 850, then it's not going to be a 309 as the lowest, because here's the thing that's similar about them. If you take the highest, subtract it from the lowest, you see the 530 point spread, they all come in around the same 530 points. See? So now that you know that there's a high and a low, then you know how many possible points you could get. So now the way my brain works is if there's 530 points that I can get my little sticky fingers on, how do I do that, right? So this is where you come into the 5 factors of credit scoring. So the number 1 factor is how you pay your bills. And each factor, it doesn't carry the same weight as each other, right? So this one is 35% of what? 530 points. So if you take 35% of 530, that's 185.5 points. So if you pay your bills on time and don't go 30 days late, 60 days late, 90 days late, right? Then it's a fact that you're going to have 185.5 points. So now if you're starting here at the basic and you get every single point, you'd already be at a 494.5. See where I'm getting at? You can take control of your credit score if you know how the math works, right? So let's say you have an issue with your job. Almost everybody did with COVID. Some people legally just could not work, right? But you got bills. So what you do is say, hey, I cannot endanger my 185 points because the money that I do have saved, I'm going to make sure my electric bill gets paid, my water bill gets paid, my rent gets paid, because you won't need that stuff, right? The credit cards, like, that's secondary. So what you do to protect your points, if you get into a bind, just call the credit company. Try and say, hey, listen, it's I got laid off. I got hurt. I'm laid up in the hospital. I'm waiting for my insurance to kick in, right? My unemployment to kick in. They know this stuff happens to millions of people like every day. Just call them. Like, they want a person who's eventually going to pay them back, right? So why would they say, oh, no, we're not going to help you out? If someone said they're not going to help me out and there's a disaster in my life, what do you think my attitude is going to be? Yeah. Forget you, right? Change your phone number and everything, right? So, no, they want to take care of you because you owe them a debt, right? You don't treat people bad, they owe you a debt. So you protect it by just be honest with them and tell them. We all have gone through COVID. We all went through the housing recession. Some of us in here had kids. You know, when you have kids, nobody's financially ready to have kids. I don't care how much you're going to say, I'm going to wait till I get money and got my degree and then I'm going to have my kid had NICU for 5 days. That's a $53,000 bill. I'm like, what? And I didn't have insurance. Like, I couldn't have predicted that, right? So there's just things that happen to humans, that happens to all of us that we don't know. But sometimes you just gotta be humble and just say, hey, can you help me? A lot of times hard for guys, right? I need help, right? I need help. I had to do that, right? So make sure you pay your bills on time. And here's the thing. If you can't pay your bills on time, don't get credit. How many times somebody bought something on credit and you were so happy, and like a month later, you're like, oh my God, I'm not even happy with what I bought. I got a golf cart sitting in my garage right now, right? I didn't even drive this thing for a whole year, just last summer. And every time I look at that thing, I'm like, oh my God, why did I get that thing, right? We all go through that. So if you got that infatuation to buy something, let's just be wise and say, listen, if I buy this thing, I'll be happy for a couple months and then I'll be stuck with something that I'm looking at, but yet I got to pay somebody back for this thing, right? You can go without stuff. And if you buy stuff on credit, that means because you don't have the cash to buy it, right? So if you don't already have the cash to buy it, don't mess around with it. So this one is hard because there's so many things out there that catch our attention and we don't have the money and we just rush in and get the credit. If you're going to buy a house, forget everything else and just keep your mind on the house, on the house, on the house. Now, revolving balances. Who can tell me what a revolving balance is or a revolving line of credit?
They'll net loan bill.
Huh?
They'll net,
That's the student loan, right?
yeah.
Okay,
Credit card.
credit cards. Now, Nelnet is an installment loan. See, it's a student loan that when you sign the paperwork, it says if you borrow 50,000, you pay this amount of month per month for X number of months, right? That is an installment loan. That means you're making the same payment over X number of months. And then once the last month's paid, what happens to the account? They close it.
They close it, but it's,
They close it, right?
you know,
Revolving is a credit line. You can charge it up, you pay it down, but it stays open. You charge it up, you pay it down like a credit card, right? That's revolving. Look at it like with these fancy buildings downtown, right? They got the revolving door, right? You go out, you go in. You go out, you go in. Do they ever really lock? Nah, because these hotels stay open 24/7, right? So a revolving credit would be more like a credit card. So credit cards in the algorithm, they got a special place in the algorithm. And look at this. It's 30% of 530. That's 159 points. This is the number one thing that gets people and stops them from getting a house. Because everybody got Credit Karma, right? Capital One's everywhere, right? These cards are so easy to get. You push a button and boom, automatically you got a $200 limit, right? That's great. You might not think $200 is dangerous. Like with the gas prices today, how many tanks of gas can you get with $200? I think I could probably squeeze 3, maybe, on $200. So when you charge your credit card up and you start to get to that limit, guess what happens to your credit score? It goes down. It goes down just as quick as you charge it up because it's a mechanism, right? So if you have a credit card that's $200 and you owe $100 on it, you've actually have a 50% balance on that card. Now check this math out. You have up to 159 points that you can lose. So if you max out a credit card, you will have lost about 100 points if you max it out. I've tried that before. I maxed all my credit cards out because I wanted to test, like, how could you lose 159 points? I thought they want me to build credit, right? So I charged it up. I lost about 100 points, but I didn't lose 159. And I said, okay, well, there's got to be something wrong with this algorithm. And I thought about it for about a month or two. And then, you know what? One of these cards, they hit me with a fee. And they put me over the limit. Like, wait a minute, I didn't know you could charge over the limit of a credit card. If they give you a limit of 100, how are you going to charge 110? Because they gave you a limit. That's called a limit. But you could go over the limit. So I said, oh, that's how you lose 159. You go over the limit, and then you drop 159 points.
that's like a flag, red flag.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we got you.
And back then, they didn't have like notifications and mobile apps where they could notify you with a little bell. So I found out the hard lesson. So why a lot of people are missing out on their house? Because they know that they can get credit cards to build their credit. Everybody knows that, right? Credit Karma, when it's been around for a decade, they had to tell you, hey, build your credit, get some more credit cards, right? So people get the cards and they're tricked and believing you got to keep using the cards to build your credit. No, you don't have to use it. You just got to have it open. What would it look like if you open a Capital One for $500 and you never used it and the balance stays to zero? Are you late? No, because you ain't got a payment, right?
Yeah.
You got a zero balance, so you get the whole 159 points. So you could technically open a credit card, never even use it, and shoot up to 700 credit scores.
Do you know sometimes they will close it because you don't use it?
They'll try.
They're-
It depends on who it is.
Yeah.
It depends on who it is. And if it's like a department store credit card, right? And they see that your credit goes down because you have some late pays, they'll be quick to start shutting cards down or lowering your limits as well. But this thing right here, this is the easiest one to build credit. The problem is if you go get credit cards, don't keep balances on them. And you know, when you pay something off, it takes 30 days for that thing to cycle around, right? So if you got the credit cards and you're going to buy a house, pay it off more than a month from the time you're ready to put the mortgage rate. Make sense? Because there's little time frame for when they zero it out. Okay, now let me tell you some little hacks for credit cards. So here's what I did, because I know that when I use my Walmart credit card, you know they give you points, right? Just like when you get the Chase United, you get the free bags and you get the airline miles and things like that. So for me, I was like, okay, y'all trying to get me for money. I'm going to try to get you back for some money, right? Anything I can get, that's a perk. Then I'm going to use that credit card, right? But the problem is when you charge the credit cards up and you try to purchase something, you might be at like a 650, right? But if it was down, you'd be at a 700. So the problem is you fluctuate too much, right?
Yeah.
And if you try to buy a house, and again, you got that 50%, 60% maxed out, you done lost a big chunk of points, probably like 60, 70 points. So what I did was I went and got some credit cards from some stores that I know I'd never buy nothing from, like Rooms to Go. And what's the other one? Rooms to Go, and what's the other one over here? Ashley Furniture. Ashley Furniture. I know it's too expensive. I'm a Bale furniture lawyer. You get bigger furniture, cheaper price, right? And they don't put that on your credit report either because they don't have a credit card. So what I did was I went to these stores that I know I'd never buy anything from, and I opened credit. And I kept hitting the button just to increase the credit line. So for example, I had with Rooms to Go and these Ashley Furniture, I think I built it up to like 8,000 to 10,000 per card. So if let's say I got $20,000 over here, and I got another 20,000 like in the United Airline Chase card, the Bank of America card, the Capital One Rewards card, right? So let's say I got 20,000, 20,000. If I keep zero on these two, even if I max these ones out, I'm only at a 50% balance, right? I can never go above 50%. Why? Because I don't ever use these cards. See, the way it works is all your credit card, your limits, and all your balance, they all added up. So you go get some cards that you never use. And what it does, it helps you out on the ratios on the one that you do use. Make sense? So when you're ready to buy something, you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I got to go pay the credit cards off to get my scores to go back. We got somebody just trying to get in over there. Might be one of our agents too. So that's a little hack. If you want to make it where you don't ever have your credit score come crashing down because you're using your credit cards. Okay? Question.
So I take you, so you say my credit card, I don't even have.
Nope. I had so many cards I just never used. And you know, for example, like Discount Tire, like how often you got to get tires? Mine like every 4 years.
Because I feel like I have to work, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because they tricked you. You know why? They tell you to work it because every time you swipe that card, merchant transaction fee, that's like 2 to 3%, right? Every time you swipe a card, they make money. If the balance is there at the end of the cycle, they made money off the interest. Yeah. If it goes over the limit, they made money, right? If it's late pay, they make money. That's like $35 when you go late, right? So that's what they do. They trick you in believing, and they say stuff like, you gotta flex your credit like you're building muscles, right? So they want to get you to use it. And when they see that you like figured it out, you don't want to use it, that's when they start sending you the advertisements, right? Whatever you use in the next 6 months, 0% interest and blah, 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 blah.
Because I've been working my credit card, I'm like, I want to keep my score, you know, where I want it to be, you know, and you know, keep my score. You know, I got this $200 credit card. Okay, I'm gonna just make sure I pay $20 on it. You know, just get some gas or something every month. $20.
Do you pay it off? Do you pay it off every month? Do you pay it off every month?
Yeah.
Then you're good. As long as it's paid off before the next billing cycle, you're good.
Right, but you're saying I don't even have to use credit.
Don't. I've seen people we did loans for, got like 15 Capital One cards. Why would you need 50 Capital One cards? They just get them because hey, if Capital One keeps saying, hey, we got a new offer for you. You know, Capital One probably got 15 different types of cards, right? Different colors and different rewards. And yeah.
I don't need no money.
It's a bank. That's how they make their money, right? It ain't like they sell stuff. They make money off, hey, I'll give you the card. Yeah,
I have a question about that.
Yep.
Should you not get new credit if you're within how many months of getting ready to purchase a house?
so we're gonna talk about that because that's gonna be number 3.
Okay.
Okay, but let me give you another hack on number 2. Let's say you have $1,000 credit card and it's maxed up, and you're losing about 100 points. And let's say your credit score is at a 620, and you need to get it to a 640 because maybe it's going to give you a 1% lower rate, or maybe it's a down payment assistance program that they require a 640, right? So you need 20 points, but you're losing 100 because you maxed out on a $1,000 card. If you need to get that 20 points in the next 30 days and you don't have a dime to pay down on that balance, what can you do to get that additional 20 points?
Don't pay, don't buy nothing.
You already maxed out, you can't buy nothing anyway.
Open
Pay it off. That's it all.
But you have no money to pay it off right now. You don't have any money to pay it off because you need to come up with your earnest money. Earnest money is the deposit you need for your house. So you're like, I'm gonna save the earnest. There you go. And you said?
Try to get your limit increase.
Credit line increase, right? Because here's how it works. If you got $1,000 card and you hit that button on Capital One, it'll ask you what you want your credit limit to be. So if your card's 1,000 and you hit the button, it'll say how much you want. 1,500. You put 1,500, you hit the button. It might say, you know what? We're not giving you 1,500, but we give you 1,300, right? That's how you keep building it, right? You keep hitting that little button. So if you take 1,000 and let's say that you can get 2,000, you went from being 100% maxed out to now 50. And that drop of that balance, that could easily be 50 points. Or you open up a second credit card. So let's say you open up another credit card and they give you 1,000. So now you have $2,000 credit limit, but you only owe 1,000. So you still have 50%. And you're going to go up probably about 50 points. It's an average over multiple cards. Make sense? That's why sometimes what people do, when they max them cards out, they'll apply for another one that has a 0% introduction for the first 12 months.
Transfer.
And you open it and you transfer that balance. And then you make the payments on this card and just leave this one alone.
This one don't have interest.
And then what you can do, once that 12 months, if it ain't paid off, you switch it back over to the other card.
Yeah, you have to play the game. You have to know.
And they know we play the game. That's why you don't see a lot of those introduction rates anymore, right? Hey, they've been playing the game on us since the invention of banks, right? Since the Bible time. So that's why God said you can't charge people high usury. So revolving balance, that'll be like credit card type stuff right there. You got to be careful because that 30% of the 530 is worth 159 points. Okay. Now the third one is the length of credit history. Now let's talk about what type of credit history. It's only for open credit. It's not that card that you paid off 2 years ago. Oh, but I had a car for 7 years and I should be getting good credit. No, once you closed it,
That's a wrap.
yeah. And just think about it from a logical standpoint. If someone wanted to borrow $1,000 from me and they said, but I paid 4 people back 5 years ago that let me borrow 1,000. I'm like, that's 4 years ago. It's a tough economy right now. It must be because you asked me for money. Just because you paid them back 4 years ago, it don't mean that you're the same person and you have the ability to pay, right? So anytime you paid something off and it gets older, your credit score goes down. If you have something that's open right now and you make a payment, the higher your score is going to be. Because number one, it's in a payment status. See, okay, you make payments on time 5 years ago, so what? This is today, 2026. If you don't have no open credit, exactly. So length of credit history is open credit. So if you have a house loan and you've been there for 13 years with the same loan, that's 13 years of credit history. At the 9th year, that's where you maximize the 79.5 points. That's why when you got parents that have been in that house forever and they got a bunch of credit cards that they had forever, but they don't use them anymore, that's why they got 800 credit scores.
Because they don't use them.
Exactly. Because if you take this 79.5 out of the equation, so look, on this model, the highest you can get is an 839. If you didn't have this 79, there's no way you could be in the 800s. Make sense? So when you have credit and you pay it off, they take the amount of time that that thing was open, let's say a 5-year car payment. The moment it's closed, it takes it out that average. So let me give you an example. So if I had a 10,000 or a 10-year mortgage, right, I would have the whole 79.5 points. If I go open up a credit card like a Capital One, I now have a 10-year trade line in a 1 month. That's 10-year and 1 month. Because I have 2 accounts, we got to take the 10-year and 1 month and divide it by 2. So my 10-year history just dropped to 5. Just like that, because I just opened a credit card.
So open credit is really not that good, or is it? Or
Open credit is good, but when it's new open credit, it's going to hurt your score. You got to keep your average above the 9. It's hard to do because you're like, well, man, I should have got the cards 9 years ago, right? So if you start opening credit right now, you're starting the 9-year clock. And really, you're going to see the biggest impact probably when it jumps to about 4 to 5 years. You're going to see a big jump in your score. But you're not going to get to 800s until you have an average that's probably about 9 years old. So let me give you a true scenario that happened to me. So when COVID happened in 2021, to kind of keep the economy going, mortgage rates dropped below 3%. You guys remember hearing about that? It wasn't a fairy tale, it was real life, right? So this house I had over here, it was a VA loan, and it was like 4.5%. I said, I'll be a fool not to refinance that house because I own a mortgage company, right? So what I did was I had enough equity in it that I changed it to a conventional loan because I had 20% equity, and I got a rate that was like 2.75% fixed for 30 years. But here's a problem. I had that mortgage for over, I think at that time, 13 years. That was my longest trade line. So here's what happened. I was already above probably like 8, 9 years. I took 13 years out the equation. It dropped. But check it out. I had to open up a brand new mortgage. So now a new credit pops up with 1 month, a double drop. Right? Yeah. Then I said, okay, COVID's happening. I got little kids. There's no playground because everybody had to go outside and hang out. You couldn't be in enclosed areas. So I went and go buy a house over by Lake Conroe, and I rented this house. I went to buy the house, got a new loan on it. That's the second open account. So it dropped again. I went probably from like a 760 to 780 down to like maybe a 710 on that. Yeah, big drop.
I think that was a really, really bad drop. Drop like 6s or 5s.
Not bad if I wasn't trying to buy something, but I knew it was going to happen. So I hustled. So I simultaneously refinanced and bought this house because I knew.
At the same time.
I knew. Yeah.
That was a big, yeah. It was
Yeah.
worth it because now you got 2.
Yeah.
You got extra.
Yep.
And you did it real quick at the same.
Yep. I did it quick, simultaneously. I did it. So credit history. Now, how can you hack that? If you got a parent, they got a credit card that's there, they're not even using anymore, and it's got low balance, and they've had it for 10, 15, 20 years, they can add you on as an authorized user. And as soon as that hits your credit, it increases.
Oh, I have a question.
Yep.
What if their score not good?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Or what if they're misusing it?
Okay, if they misuse it, then don't put your name. Okay, let's say they got 5 credit cards.
Right.
And they do good with 1. We don't care about the other ones. You just got to look at their credit and say, put me on a credit card that got this amount of time and you don't have no late pays on it. You got to be picky when you choose it. Yep.
You don't want to take on their bad credit. You want
Exactly.
good credit. Well, that your peers credit can't follow you though, right? Am I right? That your peers credit is
Not their credit score, but the items on their credit report. If you add your name to it and they had late pays, then yeah, it's gonna bring your score down.
But you're the parent and you gotta add the kid to your good credit.
You can do that.
Yeah, you're adding to your good credit, but
You add them to your credit lines, right? Yeah.
Right, your credit.
Like if you have an 800 credit score, they don't automatically get an 800 credit score.
Right.
But if you have a credit card you had for 7 years and you didn't have no late payments, you add them to that,
Right.
they will have their own credit score based on that particular one.
But they get the right output credit when? Do they get the right
Exactly,
output?
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep. So length of credit history. When you get a mortgage loan, this is what your loan officer, if he's good, he should tell you. Don't do this. Don't open no new credit and don't close no credit. Because of that reason, if you have a car and let's say it's January and you owe $6,000 on it, so let's say January 2026 and you get your income tax, right? And you're like, I'm going to pay my car off and then I'm going to buy a house. They'll say, do not pay the car off because if you had a 640 and you pay that car off and it was a 7-year loan, you could easily drop about 10, 15 points and you won't have a 640 anymore. So this is why in the mortgage guidelines, it says if you have an installment loan and you have less than 10 payments left, you do not have to pay that thing off because it will be paid off the first year in your house. So that $500 car payment, they won't even count it against your income. Remember how I talked about my $550 car payment? If I had less than 10 months left on each car, they wouldn't have counted that debt against me because it'll be paid off by the time I was in it the first year. So they say, don't pay nothing off. When they pull your credit, don't pay nothing off and don't go open anything new. Because here's what's going to happen. If you do that and you're on contract, it's up to that bank to say, we're going to re-pull your credit right before closing.
Ooh, that's great.
Yeah.
You can pay it down, but just don't pay it off.
Pay it down, don't pay it off.
Don't pay it off.
Now, credit cards, again, you can pay those down, but they're not closed. If it's like a car loan and you pay it like off, it's closed. So they might say, go ahead and pay a little bit on this credit and credit card and a little bit on that credit card, just so that your scores go up and then wait another 30 days and then re-pull your credit and you have higher scores. Okay. So I get it. People, they get that brand new house. They got their pre-approval letter. They got the contract. They're going through inspections and all that's in their mind is, what type of furniture am I going to get at Ashley Furniture, right? Then they go open up a card because you know when you go to the store and take a look, they're going to try to get you on a credit card. Because they know a person with a credit card is more likely to buy stuff because you don't have to use your own money. So just stay away. Just get on the internet and look at the stuff, right? But don't walk in because you got to look people in the eye. They're good salespeople out there, right?
No payments for 3 years.
Listen, I was a Navy recruiter. In the high schools, this is what the kids used to say. If you don't want to go in the Navy, do not look Petty Officer Cameron in the eyes. Because as soon as I lock eyes with them like this, done deal. They're going to be in uniform. I'm shipping them to boot camp. All right. So just never look them in the eyes. Length of credit history, that's 15%, that's 79.5 points. Now, number 4 and number 5, they're very similar. You only get 10% of 530, 53 points. That's still a lot of points. The difference between a 639 credit score and a 640 could be the difference of 0.5% in your interest rate. 0.5% don't sound like a lot, right?
But it is.
It is if it's over 200,000, right? You could be paying extra thousands of dollars in insurance over a 30-year period. So it's big. 0.5% is big if you look at the amount of the loan, right? So mix of credit will be diversifying. You got the credit card, which is revolving. You got the installment loan, which is like the car and the student loans. Now you could put your cell phone on your credit. You could put your rent on your credit. You could put your Netflix on your credit. Those are what they call utilities you can put on your credit now. It's all kind of stuff you can get on your credit now. So by putting different types of stuff, you create a mix, you can get up to 53 points. Anybody didn't know you could put your cell phone on your credit?
Yeah.
Like your monthly cell phone bill?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, write this down. It's a thing called Self, I think it's www.self.com. It used to be called Self Lender. So Self Lender was a bank in Austin that came out with a website and said, we're going to give you a CD, right? A CD is when you put money aside for, let's say, a year or two, and you let it ride, and it gets a little bit of interest rate, and then you can get a higher rate than a savings account. So what it would do is you would put, let's say, $12 a month into your CD, and let it ride. You can't touch it for the 1 or 2 year terms. So you actually saving money. That's your money that you're going to get back in 2 years with interest. So that's why they call it self-lender. You're lending yourself money. And every time you made that $12 payment on time, it reported to your credit report. So then the government said, well, hey, we need to find other ways to boost people's credit. We know people are paying like light bills and gas bills, and they're paying rent, and they're paying like, cable. So then Self changed its name to Self. It was self-lender and went to Self, because now they do more than the CDs, and they do a secure credit card, and they do all this other stuff. But now when you sign up for them, I think it's like $2 a month or something like that, right? You can pay them, and they will connect to your bank account. And every time you pay your T-Mobile bill, they report that to your credit report. That's a big thing now, because certain people are like, listen, why do I need to go get debt to get a bigger debt, right? Why do I gotta get credit cards to get a big house debt, right? I don't want debt. But that was the way of the world. So the government's like, well, there's people that just culturally, they don't believe in debt, right? So they said, we got to find another way to help people with scores so they won't be discriminated when it comes to their credit score. So, all right, mix of credit, we talked about that, 10%. Now, credit inquiries. Now, this one is different than the rest, because this is what I call a grace factor. You get this free. You get 53 points for free. So that means if you start at 309, you automatically have 53 plus the 309. But here's how you lose it, because that factor is you lose. Is every time you let somebody pull your credit, a hard inquiry, you could drop about 2 points. Now, here's the thing. There's a mechanism built in, because it's your right to shop. So if you're shopping for a car, the government doesn't want you to be afraid of going to Ford and having them pull your credit, and then Mitsubishi pulling your credit, and then Hyundai pulling your credit. Because if you're paranoid, oh my God, I'm gonna keep lowering my score, you'll never search for the best deal. So if you get your credit ran, and let's say it's a FICO auto score, right? You could go Monday, go to Ford, Tuesday, go to this place, and Thursday, go to that place. You only get punished once for your score, penalized once. Okay. Now, if Monday you go to try to buy a car on credit, Tuesday you went to the mall and got a mall credit card, and then the next day you went and applied for like a lease and they pulled your credit on a rental, that's 3 different industries. See, when you register as a company to be able to pull people's credit, we have to register as an industry. So when we pull your credit, it's a mortgage report, and it shows up on your credit as a mortgage. It's not going to show up as auto. Okay. Now,
mortgage, or is it like a car, or you just?
So for us, we're a mortgage broker. We pull your credit in-house one time, but that same credit report we can use with like 6 different banks, so they don't have to pull your credit. Now, if you go to CarMax, because I go there, you're going to see that they just blast your information out to like 15 different, because they're also a broker, but they blast it out, and each one of those little banks pull your credit. Capital One is one of them that's going to pull your credit.
And they'll be on your report as a
Auto. You'll see like 15 of those jokers, but you didn't see your scores go down 15 times 2.
Yeah.
You didn't see it go down 30 points. Right? Probably could have went down like maybe 3 or 4 points, and you see them, and they're all on the same day because they blasted out. Okay. So credit inquiries stay on for 24 months. And let me tell you, they're the easiest thing to dispute to get off your credit. Let me tell you why. If we pulled your mortgage credit and then you say 2 months down the road, I don't remember these people at Home Rock Mortgage, right? And somebody's helping you to try to dispute your credit. As soon as you dispute that inquiry, I'm going to get a letter in the mail, and it's going to say, this person says that they never authorized you to pull the credit.
You can do that. Wow.
Yes, but I'm like, wait a minute. There's no way we can pull your credit without authorizing, because you do it online, right? You check mark, I give my permission. But here's the thing. If I just ignore that dispute and 30 days goes by, it comes off. So that's why it's so easy. I'm like, I'm not going to go in and why would I waste my time going to 3 credit bureaus showing them proof that you gave me permission? It's a waste of time. So I'll just ignore it. And that's what happens. A lot of these companies are like, I'm not going to do anything. Somebody's at the door back there. I'll just ignore it. Okay. So if you do got a bunch of inquiries on there, you could actually go online, you get a free account with each one of the bureaus and just check out, didn't authorize, didn't authorize, didn't authorize, didn't authorize. Probably half the stuff is going to come off because they just don't want to take the time to just. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So credit increase. That's when you have a bunch of people for your credit. You don't want to have a bunch of people pointing your credit if you're trying to buy a house because those credit will stay, those inquiries stay on there for about 2 years, 24 months. Okay. Anybody have any question about any of these 5 factors of credit scoring? You want front row? It's comfortable seats up here. No questions? All right. Let's go to step 2. The mortgage. So once you understand credit, then you're going to start to understand mortgages a little bit better. Because when you get a mortgage, credit is one of the little pieces of the puzzle that they're going to look at. They look at your credit. They look at how much money you make. They're going to look at, do you have a job? They're going to look at how long do you have a job? They're going to say, hey, have you been paying somebody on time for rent for the last 12 months? Because rental history is more similar to somebody making a house payment. So if you're not making a rental payment on time, most likely you're not going to make a house payment on time. Now I get it. You go say, but it's my house. So I think I'll pay my house on time, right? You never know what can happen, right? Again, nobody predicted COVID. Nobody predicted a crazy snowstorm a couple years ago. Remember February when the snow came and like everybody's power was out and people were dying and freezing to death, right? It's crazy stuff. The last hurricane came, it brought 9 tornadoes all the way up to New Katy, right? So it's just some things that you can't predict. So let's talk about mortgage. So what do banks look at in order to approve me for a loan? So on the bullet point right here, they will look at credit score. Now, who can tell me what's a good credit score? Like, what's the credit score you should shoot for?
Should be 640, 650.
640, 650.
It's 650 on some.
I mean,
No, but the highest one.
just in general, just to get the house. In general, just to get the house.
Okay, let's put it this way. What is a good score to buy a house?
700.
Okay, 620. 620?
550.
550?
Fannie Mae say 520.
I say 620. I say 625.
625?
How do you get a better interest rate? So that's what I'm
So you see how everybody's all over the page?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember we talked about lack of knowledge, why people perish for lack of knowledge, right?
It's like a little fortune right now.
So here's the thing. I get it. Everybody got their opinions and everybody got their sources. Some people look at the stuff on the TikTok. Some people look at the YouTube or somebody just ask your mama, right? So, but here's what I'm going to put out, right? Owning a mortgage company and being plugged in to multiple billion-dollar banks, I know exactly what these people are looking for, right? Can you get a loan with a 550? You can, but it's probably going to be maybe a 10 to 20% chance. There's always an exception, right? If you say you got $50,000 in the bank account, right? And you got a good letters like, hey, I was unemployed or I went through a divorce and the court said that I had to take this debt and that debt. But listen, I'll throw $50,000 at the problem, right? They're going to say, well, great. Because if you're going to put 20% down, we'll do it, right? Now, FHA, written in the guidelines, FHA, Federal Housing Administration, is probably one of the #1 loans for first-time home buyers. Probably about 34% of people in America get that loan, right? So written into the law is if you don't have at least a 580, you're going to have to put 10% down. So of course somebody said, oh, 580 or 579, you can get a loan. Yeah, you can if you got the 10% down. But most Americans don't have 10%. On a $200,000 house, you'd have to come up with 20 G's, right?
Yeah.
They may not have that money. If you're a 580 or higher, you only got to put 3.5% down. That's doable. This last tax season return, everybody blowing me up. They like got double the money back this year, right? And everybody's buying houses this year. So the 3.5 is more sustainable. So, but regardless, it ain't just about the down payment. It's about a debt that you're about to carry for the next 30 years. Do you rather pay $2,000 for a mortgage or you rather pay 1,800 for a mortgage,
18.
right?
10 or 16 would be great. though.
So that means you got to focus on the interest rate, right?
Yeah.
So here's my advice. 640. That's the magic number. And I'm going to give you multiple reasons why. Number one, when you get approved for a loan, it's really not a human that's going to make the decision out of 640. It's a computer system. It's an algorithm. It's called AUS, Automated Underwriting System. Write that down. AUS, Automated Underwriting System. It's going to be tied Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, because they end up buying a lot of these loans, right? So they make some guidelines of what type of loans that they want. Okay? You got government insured loans and you got non-government insured loans. So out of 640, you are highly likely that the algorithm is going to say automatic accept or approve eligible is the trigger word. That's what the computer is going to say. Approve eligible, which means you're good. Right? So a human doesn't have to make the decision. So if you default on a loan, whatever bank that gave you the loan, they're going to say, listen, the government's computer system said you was good to go. And if it said you're good to go, I signed off on it. If the computer system says refer with caution, that means it's a downgrade, a manual underwrite. That means a human being is going to pick your life apart and say, we want 1,000 letters of explanation. Why was you late on this credit card? And why you did this? And why this money came into your bank account with Zelly? And what's this Klarna thing on there that you bought some Air Jordans on? They will pick your file apart and try to find reasons why not to give you money. And they're going to use the government guidelines.
You should have thought about that when they borrowed money from the government when they all was in it. Upside down.
Yeah.
You know that?
Yeah.
They borrowed from taxpayers, so what's the point of it?
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
He's still upset about the housing crisis.
That's
Yeah.
all.
He's still upset.
Looks great.
He about to fight. I get it. Hey, I feel you because listen, it was the government who told the banks, relax your requirements because we have too many homes. We overbuilt. 25 million homes in America. Listen, just today, we only got like 368 million people in America. That's including kids. How you gonna build 25 million homes? It wasn't enough people that could buy it. So the government said, listen, we give money to the banks. That's how you start a bank. You get the money from the government, right?
Yeah.
They should just give everybody a house, right? As long as they breathing, right? They got a good credit score. That's what they did. That's what they did. Stated income, just tell me how much money you make. You got a 700 credit score, right? We didn't even ask nobody if you employed, right? The government did that. And that's why they bailed them out, because they caused it. So, but the 640, if you don't want no stress in your life, we're going to pray that that computer says approve eligible and you're good to go. Right? So that's number one. If you get a 640, then the computer is probably, it's kind of like when you get on Credit Karma, right? You know how it tracks your credit score? It don't even do it every 30 days. It does every 7 days, right? Because it's like really wanting you to get more credit cards. So as soon as your score go up 15, 20 points, you see all the new credit cards that pop up. It's an algorithm. They're watching your credit. And you're already approved. It's guaranteed. You just click the button and you get it. That's how the mortgages are. So that's the first reason. The computer will favor you. Number two, when you look at debt to income ratio, anybody ever heard of that term before? Okay, let me give you an example. Anybody get an apartment and they say that the rent is $1,000 a month. How much gross income a month do you have to make to get that $1,000 a month apartment?
3 times.
3 times, right? So if you think about it, you make $3,000 a month, your rent is $1,000, that's 33.3%. That's a housing ratio. That's a housing payment. So your housing payment is 1/3 of your income. That's what the ratio is. Okay, so when you hear the debt to income ratio, you got your income at $3,000 and the $1,000 is your debt. Now, when you get an apartment, they may not care that you got a $500 car payment and $200 worth of credit cards and all this other stuff. They might just say, listen, our guidelines is just show that you make 3 times what the rent and you good, right? Now, when you buy a house, it's the same thing, but here's the catch. That 3 times rent that everybody knows in the rental industry, that's like a standard. But in mortgages, it's not. It could be different. On a conventional loan, they may only want you to be 31, 33%. FHA, 41%, 45%, 54.9 for people that are above a 640 credit score. That number moves based on the type of loan and also your credit. See, if you have less than a 640 on FHA, it might say you cannot have a housing ratio more than 41%. And think about this. Do you know you could qualify for more of a home than you can for rent? Because rent, they stick you at that 33%. On a 640 credit score, you can have a 54% housing ratio. So that's saying $3,000 a month, you could technically get like a $1,600 to $100 house payment. You can get more, but it's also based on your credit. So out of 640, typically what the computer system will say is you can go up to 54.9%. And sometimes we have to have that because you might have boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife, right? And there's a situation where maybe we cannot use the income of one of the people because of their credit. But we know they got money and we know they're going to help pay the mortgage, but we can't put them on the loan. So the person that has the good credit, if they can go up to that 54.9, it's like nobody in their right mind wants to make $3,000 a month and then have more than half of your income go to a house, right? Especially when you know you don't really put $3,000 in your bank. They take all the taxes and all that stuff out, right? That's dangerous. But if you got somebody else that you know that's there to help you pay that $1,600, they just can't be on the loan, then it's okay that you go up to the 54% because you're not on the hook by yourself. You got somebody helping you, right? You can have your kids helping you, have your mom and dad living in your house with you. So that's the second reason for a 640. You qualify for more purchase power of a house. The third reason, because we're connected to multiple banks, I could put a credit score in to the pricing engine of each one of the banks. I could put a 639. Right now, you might get like a 6.75. I bump it up by 1 point. 640, it may drop to a 6.125. That's the biggest rate drop is at a 640. Now you might say, well, I want to work on my credit. I want to get a 660, a 680, a 700. Even if you had a 700, you're probably only going to get a better rate, like probably 0.25 or 0.125. It's not even as big as the rate drop that you get from that 640. So if someone says, I want to wait till I get a 760 credit score, you already saw what it takes to get it, right? If you don't have the longevity of open credit, you lost 79 points right there. If you got increase, you lost points right there. If you had some late payments in the last 2 to 3 years, you lost some points there. If your credit cards have balances, you lost some points there. It's a lot of things you got to do to get that 760. And by the time you finally do it, then guess what? The price of the house done went up because we already talked about they go up like 3 to 4% every year.
Yeah.
Right? 640 is where you're going to get the biggest interest rate drop. That's the third reason. Here's a fourth reason. If you qualify for a down payment assistance program, it could be the state, it could be the city, it could be the county. In the county of Montgomery, there's a $12,000 grant for first-time home buyers, as long as you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. The state of Texas got some grant programs that'll give you either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5% towards your down payment. And you don't even have to be a first-time home buyer, right? So, but they put limits. The state says, we want you at a 640, but if you at a 620, they penalize you with an additional fee that they put in your loan. And if you're below 620, you can't get it because you're more risky. So they want more skin in the game, right?
What is the credit score on the county? 640?
You should always shoot for 640,
640.
right? If you're going to get any type of down payment assistance program, it's going to be 620 or 640. But remember, I just gave you 3 other reasons why you need to get a 640, right?
Already.
It just makes your file look. So here's the thing. With the down payment program, you can't get the down payment if you can't qualify for the loan. So if you got below a 640 and you can't get the automated approval, some banks don't do manual underwrites. Like if you go to Lennar Homes right now, Lennar Mortgage, they have what's called an overlay on top of FHA's rules. If your score is below a 600, you got to put 10% down. And if they can't get the automatic approval for the loan, they won't do the loan. They won't do a manual underwrite. They turn you down. It's too risky for them. See, so the 640 is going to solve a lot of problems. Now, the reason why they want you to have a 640 to get the down payment, if you lock up, let's say $10,000 that they give you from taxpayers, and then you default on that home, you just wasted the taxpayers' money. Especially if the house goes upside down and they can't get that down payment money back, and then the bank can't get the money for the house, you just wasted taxpayers' money. Make sense? So that's why they want to make sure you're credit worthy before they give you these types of grants. That's just business 101, right? You try to open up a company or a nonprofit, they're going to look at your police background, they're going to look at your credit. The government just not going to give somebody stuff if they see that you're bad with your finances, right? So that's 4 reasons, 640, right? So if somebody tell you, oh, don't worry about it, I got a house at a 550. Yeah, what's your rate? Oh, but I got it. How much money did you have to suck up out your bank? Oh, I had to put 10% down. I put 20,000 down. Now the down payment. Anybody notice Dave Ramsey guy? Okay. He tell you don't buy nothing unless you can pay in cash, right? Then you'll never have anything in this country, right? Because stuff costs this much, but salaries are this much, right?
That right there.
So, but there is debt that you can leverage. So my way of thinking, because I've been in this industry for a long time, and I went through the great housing recession, I had some homes that went upside down when everything came crashing. If you put all your money into that house and then the economy goes bad or you need the money, how you get the money out? You might say, well, I can go borrow against it or get a HELOC. You think a bank is going to let you take money from your house if the economy is going down? No. You got a $300,000 house and you try to take $50,000 out of it and the market says the house values are going down, right? They're not going to let you do that. Because the reason why they let you take the money out is if you get in a bind, you can sell the house and pay them the money back. Worst case scenario. But if the value goes down and you owe more, it's kind of like when you buy a car, right? You don't got that gap insurance. You see? You wreck a car and they say, listen, you owe $12,000, but the car's worth $5,000. You're still stuck with the rest of that debt that your insurance don't pay off. It's the same thing with the house. So me personally, I'm trying to get a house with the least amount of my own personal money, because if I need to get my money back, it's going to be tough to get that money out that house. Make sense? Okay. All right. So we talked about the credit score. Let's talk about income. Now, income is another thing that is very tricky and it stops a lot of people from getting houses, because here's the thing. There's so many different ways that people make money. And sometimes the people that make the most money, they make it in a way that's going to come back and bite them in the butt when they get the house. And it doesn't even make sense, because in our mind, well, hey, if I'm making 2 times more than what I was making over at this job, to me, that's a better decision, right? So let me give you an example. Anybody in here, an independent contractor, 1099, or run a business like an LLC or an Inc? Okay. Okay, good. Everybody W-2 then?
Yeah, right.
All right. So when you buy a house, W-2 is the best position you could be in. And let me tell you why. If you get paid $5,000 monthly gross income, even though you don't get $5,000 in your bank account, they got the FICA and the medical and all the insurance and the 401. They take a bunch of stuff out that I promise you guys don't even know where that money's going, right? But you don't get the whole 5. But that's okay, because when you get approved for a mortgage, they give you credit for the whole $5,000 when it comes to your debt to income ratio. Okay. So even if you was making $5,000 and you put half of it in your retirement plan, they still give you credit for $5,000. Now, if you are a self-employed person, and I'm just using anybody, a truck driver. Well, truck drivers are here, okay. Because if I was a truck driver, you might get mad. Truck drivers all the time, they brag, oh, I make $150,000 a year, I make $130 a year. But bro, your tax returns say you make $30,000 a year. No, I make 100. No. After you pay for your food, you pay for the fuel, when you got to pay for those hotels when you stop, right? And if you're independent operator, you're paying for the insurance. The insurance on a rig is a lot. I know my daddy was drove for JB Hunt, right? It's a lot of maintenance on these things, right? So when you're an entrepreneur, which is a good thing, you want to get out there and be free and make money and not have bosses and things like that. But the problem is they write off a bunch of stuff. So if you make 100,000 and you write off 50,000 in expenses, you're going to have what's called a Schedule C. It's your profit and loss. So if you lost 50,000 from the 100,000, that means you got 50,000 left over. We got to use the 50,000 divided by 12 to figure out your monthly. That's what you're going to qualify for. But in their mind, well, why make $100-some thousand? My friend does, and he got a $500,000 house. Yeah, but he making his 100,000 different than you. He's self-employed, right? The other thing is, there's a lot of times people W-2 and they go get their taxes done by some shady characters and say, hey, listen, if I can save you some money, get you some money back, you keep using me, right? Tell all your friends. Next thing you know, you bring your tax returns in, trying to buy a house. We're like, wait a minute. What's this $21,000 in expenses? What's this company? Amway? Mary Kay? Yeah, my tax person said I need a side hustle so I can write some stuff off, right? To lower my income tax bracket and get more money. If you W-2, but you got this little side hustle, that is self-employed also. So if you take a loss from that self-employed, so let's say you make $50,000 and you wrote off $25,000 in Mary Kay, that $50,000, you got to drop it by the $25,000. If you're a school teacher and they tell you got to go buy your own supplies for the year, I'm going to get the best of them, $10,000 in supplies for these kids. Nothing good for the kids, right? You could be W-2 and still write off stuff. And you're trying to lower your tax bracket. We'll see that on your tax returns. That's what gets a lot of teachers. So make sure if you're going to buy a home, at least 2 years prior, let us take a look at the type of income. Because here's the great news. There's some people that was W-2 and whatever skill that you got, when you W-2, that skill you got, someone's paying you for that skill. But then you say, well, I could go out and do my own thing with the same skill and double the money, right? As soon as you make that decision and you do that, you got to be 2 years in the business by evidence of 2 years of tax return before you could buy a house. So you shot yourself in the foot by leaving your W-2 job. But the good news is, if you're 1099, you can run back to the W-2 job and it counts. So it's better 1099 going back to W-2 than from W-2 going 1099. Okay? Now, anybody in here have a job where you got to do overtime or shift differential or bonuses because you're on commission? All right. Here's where it can get tricky for a W-2 person. So whatever your hourly rate is, right? Let's say you make $25 and that's every 40 hours, right? You go over 40 hours, you make time and a half. Here's the thing. Most employers, a lot of times, that extra time that they need of yours, it could be seasonal, right? So if you're getting overtime, shift differential, we got to see a track record of 2 years because it could be seasonal. So you might buy a house in the summertime, and because the job you're working, it picks up more sales in the summertime, but then it falls off in the winter. So they're going to say, okay, well, I see right now your last 60 days of pay stub, you're making $6,000 a month with your overtime and everything. They're going to say, no, we can look at your year to date at the bottom and they automatically know how much your overtime. That's why they separate on your pay stub. So if you make a lot of overtime and you're like, well, I make $6,000 a month, I should be able to easily buy a $400,000 house. I get it. but that doesn't mean it's true if 2,000 of the 6,000 is overtime money. If you can prove that you've been doing it for the last 2 years, then you can use it, because if you did it for 2 years, most likely it's going to continue to happen. And when we do the verification of employment and we write down how much money you're making in overtime, the boss man or HR has to sign off, and we're going to ask them on the form, it's a government form, what's the likelihood that the overtime is going to continue? And if they say yes, likely, then you're good. We got the proof of the past, and then we got the boss man saying you're good for the future. Now, if you're in a job that, in order to keep the job, you have no choice but to work the overtime, like nurses, right? You got 7 days, but they work 12-hour shifts. They may have to work 4 hours every 7 days, 12-hour shifts. That's more than 40 hours, right? They have no choice to keep the job. That's the life that they live, right? So if that's the type of income that you're getting overtime because it's demanded based on your role, we automatically can count it. The employer just have to say that this is guaranteed. You got to work 4 hours, right? Or 4 days times 12-hour shifts. Like cops and fire people do, they do that too, right? They got to stay sometimes 24 hours in the firehouse, and they get paid extra money for that. Make sense? So income is different for everybody. Commissions. You could be W-2 without a salary and live off of commissions 100%. So if you're commission based, we got to see 2 years worth of commissions, and then we divide that by the 24 months to kind of figure out what your monthly pay is going to be. Make sense? Anybody have any question on income? No questions on income? Okay, y'all should be good. Because it does happen. People want to buy homes and then they making good money. It's just the way that they get paid. Sometimes it comes back to bite them in the butt. All right, let's talk about some other type of income. Any veterans in here? No military veterans. Okay. If you are a veteran or you know a veteran, then you get the disability income. They get the retirement income too. You can use those types of income, but you just got to show proof via letter that you earned it. Like, so a veteran that's got disability, every year they issue a statement saying this is your new amount for 2026, for example, for your benefits, right? Same thing with SSI. Child support, anybody getting child support, as long as it's going through the Attorney General, because it's stable. And if somebody don't pay, the government's going to come after them and get that money. It's going to be owed back pay too. It can't be like, well, so-and-so give me a couple $100 every, no, that don't work because it's not stable income, okay? So you could use SSI. Something I see a lot is SSI disability, where you have a parent that has a child. The child may be like 30 years old, but they get an SSI disability check, right? And the check is going to belong to the parent because the parent got the custody of it, right? So you could use that to apply for the mortgage. And anytime you get income that's non-taxable, we can gross it up by about 25%. So for example, a military veteran that's getting 100% disability, let's just say he's making $4,000 a month. Because they don't get taxed, we can gross it up by 25%, which means we can add like another 1,000 to that. So they make $5,000 on paper. Yeah. Yep. Okay, rental history. So either you live like in an apartment or a house that's managed by companies, or you live in a regular person who owns a house like a guy named Joe, or you live with your mom, family, right? So based on rental history, if you live in an apartment, that's a company, or you live in a house that's managed by property management, right? Then when we send over the verification of rental history, what the bank's looking for is how you made your payments in the last 12 months. Here's the tricky part. You know, when you have something on your credit report, it's not technically late until it's how many days late? 30, right? Now, when you get a rent, in that contract, it'll say due on the 1st, late by the 3rd or the 5th. If you pay on the 6th, are you late?
Yes.
Not legal.
They don't go by the 30 days. And here's what happens. When they get that verification of rent, this is the simple question. How many times have they been late in the last 12 months? And if they say they pay on the 15th every month and it's late by the 5th, they will put 12 months late. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It ain't like a credit card. Credit card got billing cycles, right? Same thing with a car. It's got billing cycles. Apartments don't have billing cycles. Hey, do on the 1st, late on the 5th. Constable day on the 6th. Banging on your house, right? Yep. So be careful with that rent because they're going to have to sign a piece of paper when you moved in, how much you pay, and what's your payment history in the last 12 months. Now, if you are living in a person that is an individual that owns that house, let's say a guy named Joe, right? He's not a real company. They may not accept that from him because he's not a legitimate company. So the backup is show us from your bank statements that that check you wrote, that it cleared every single month, and make sure you write the word rent. Now I get it. Everybody's doing Zelly these days, right? That's fine. We can look at the Zelly and see that Cash App, all of that stuff, right? So, or you go to the person's bank account and you just stick the money in the bank account. If you do that, you better make sure that that check cleared. Way back in the day, I had two different situations. Somebody was putting money in an account. They never kept in contact with the landlord. Landlord was dead. We couldn't, how we going to do a verification of rent? He was dead. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're like, I ain't spoke to the landlord for 5 years, I just keep putting money. There's no telling who's on his account getting that money, right? And when it comes time to buy a house, what you gonna do? He was dead. Yeah. And I think that same year we had a landlord that went, I don't know if he got deported or went away to another country. We couldn't find him. Couldn't find him. So we're like, listen, if we could just show the bank statements that at least the checks went in there,
Yeah, we're fine.
right? We're good.
Yep.
Yep. All right, now, if you live with a family member, like whose mama wouldn't lie? If we send something to your mom, hey, has they ever paid late? Your mom probably gonna lie for you, right? My mom wants, she Jehovah's Witness. She's like, son, I'm sorry, but you know, you sinned against Jehovah.
My mama not gonna lie. When she wants you to get out of the house, not worry about it.
She's not gonna do this.
She never know what she wants.
She's not
And
gonna
like you were saying about your child staying with you,
Mhm.
and you got to show proof that that person is paying. But suppose that person is not paying nothing,
Well, they should be paying you something.
but they got.
Well, they.
No, what now?
So here's what typically happens. Here's what typically happens. They say, Mama, here's some money for the electric. Here's some money for the grocery. Here's some money for the cable. I'll pay the guy to cut the grass for you, Mama. Just have them put some money, the same amount. It don't matter if it's not a lot of money. It could be $200 a month. Zelly it and put rent.
I mean, that don't affect you getting out, though, you stand with a bank.
Okay, so there's this thing called compensating factors. If he got strong credit and he got money in the bank and he write a letter of explanation and say, hey, I'm so smart that I'm trying not to pay nobody, not even my mama, so I can pay my credit cards down. They're like, you know what? We'll take it, right? I got someone that did that. They moved in with a family member for 6 months, wasn't paying nothing. They was chipping away at all their credit cards. And we just wrote the letter saying, hey, that was a great financial decision. She moved in with family members that didn't have to pay nothing. Yep. So it,
my issue.
so the main thing is if the computer, see the verification of rent, that don't have nothing to do with the algorithm. That's just something that needs to be done on every file to verify rent. But the algorithm is your credit score. Also, when we put in how much money that you got in your bank account, because sometimes we can put in there that you got 2 months of house payment somewhere in savings, and it'll trick the algorithm and say, hey, if something go wrong, they got 2 months in there, right? if you got a 401k, you got $10,000 sitting in there, and we put that 10,000, that's like probably 4 to 5 months of a house payment. It tricks the algorithm. So by the time we send out for the rental verification, like there is no rental verification, the computer says you're good. We just got to write a letter of explanation, put it with the file of why you don't have the rent. And the best reason to say is I'm just trying to save money for my house. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But if you are paying rent, that's where they get you, because then it could be evidence of a late payment, right? So I've never been late because I don't pay nothing, right?
But what if you actually say you don't pay rent? Will the algorithm find out that you do? In the detection.
So here's what they will do. You know how when you get your credit report ran
Mhm.
and it shows every address you ever lived at? They look at that. Wait a minute. There's 2 addresses right here, and you saying you don't pay no rent? Are you paying rent and just paid bad and you tell us you don't? That's when they're gonna find out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Address come up with.
And if 2 addresses pop up and they overlap in time, which a lot of times your mama's address is on it because you go back and forth. You got half your bills going to your mama's house and half going to your apartment. So they'll question that.
Hello, are you PO box?
Yep. That's another one.
Then they'll figure out. oh,
Well,
well,
I mean-
So remember, every bank has a department that's called QA, quality assurance. Their job is to pick these loans apart for fraud. Every loan that you get, you're going to sign a document, and it's going to say if you committed fraud, 2 years to 99 years in prison and or a $10,000 fine. They got a whole department that's looking for fraud. Yeah. And even after you move in, they can still go back and audit your loan 3 years later. Yes. And you'll sign a document saying that they got access to the last 2 years of your tax return. So 2 years in the future, they could go back and get tax returns even after you close on your house. Because why? People play tricky with their, and you know, if you're self-employed and someone says, well, you make 30,000, these people get smart. They go back and amend their taxes and the 30,000 just jump to 90,000.
Oh,
Then they move in their house and they amend the taxes again and they drop it. See?
Wow.
Yeah.
we wouldn't do that, but yeah, we.
Especially if you work with me, because I ain't going to jail. But nobody. I got kids. All right. So work history. This is another one. People get scared with this one because people jump from job to job. You should be doing to make more money, right? It is a 2-year history requirement, but not necessarily at the same job. Okay. And we get it. Sometimes people have medical situations when there's a gap in employment. Like if you have a baby, right? You might have like a 3, 4, 5, 6 month gap, right? So 2 years working, they want to see 2 years of tax returns. They want to get employment verified that yes, you did work at these certain places, because even people sometimes can fraudulently make pay stubs in tax returns, right? So 2 years of work history, all they're saying is if we give you a loan for a house, have you demonstrated that you've been making money for the last 2 years? Okay. And if you went from one job to the next, that's fine. As long as you're making more money. It looks fishy though if you go backwards, right? Here's the other thing. I've had people working full time and they went backwards and did part time and then try to buy a house. You're not going to get a house working part time. Now I see people have a full-time job and say, well, I want to get another part-time job plus my full to make more money so I can qualify for a higher price house. You can't do that unless you've already been doing it for 2 years. Because a person that's going to try to cheat the system, try to fluff their income to get a higher price and then quit that part-time job once you move in, they know that. So they know if a person been working that part-time job for 2 years plus the full, then you're probably not going to cut down on that part-time job. You don't have to be 2 years on the new, you don't have to be 2 years on the new job.
Now I'm coming on for working 2
Yeah.
jobs.
Yeah.
It have to be 2 years.
That's if you're working full and part-time.
That's not what I'm
She's working.
I'm saying if I switch before I get the house.
Okay, let's do this. If you don't switch, do it now. Don't switch while you're under contract for a house.
Right.
Because we're gonna ask for probably the last 30 to 60 days pay stub and you won't have them.
Yeah.
And we're gonna say, nope, you just got declined until you work that new job X number.
Now what? Or after you actually buy the house?
Yeah, I'm just
Just
saying.
hold tight.
Oh, so, right, so I'm saying, you know, because
No, he's
I ain't
saying,
got.
don't change anything, just stay there and see
Stay
what
where you at right now.
Yep.
And then after you get it, then change, because then as soon as you go to buy a house, they actually wanna know, how long have you been at your job? Like that,
Right.
yeah.
Now, here's the other thing. People try to get tricky. People try to get tricky and they got a job offer. And they tell the new company, I'm closing on my house on Friday. I'm gonna start on Monday, right?
That is,
At closing, a lot of times in the quality assurance team, they will, we got the verification, do they still work here?
yeah.
They're like, no, they just resigned this morning and said they got a new job starting on Monday.
Oh, wow. And then they'll cut that out.
And the thing you can do
Yeah.
it, you just can't do it while you're under contract. If
Yeah.
you're under contract, you gotta be still. That's all I'm saying.
Now, let me tell you what happened in COVID. So in COVID, when we had people on contract and we sent that verification of employment over, there's a question on there that says, what's the likelihood that this person will stay employed with you? There was companies that was literally about to lay people off. They knew they were gonna lay people off. They knew that the person was getting a house, but they didn't say nothing. So once the form came through, it's a government form. So even if the employer lies on it, they go to jail. Because they will be accessory to committed mortgage fraud. So they got check mark, he won't be working here. We had to call the person that's closing on their home and say, listen, we cannot do the loan because your employer is about to let you go.
Damn.
Yeah, that happened a lot after COVID.
They didn't even know it.
They didn't even know it. We're talking about some hot people.
Ooh, super hot.
Yeah.
At closing.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So the other thing is, there is a way that you can buy a house without having that secure employment. That's if you're in some type college, you got your degree, tech school, you got your certificate. They will say that because you were a student trying to get an even better job, that was your job, right? Yeah, so I could take someone that's just got out of college 4 years, and let's say they're a nurse, they get a house in 30 days, they get 30 days of pay stub. Actually, if they get a salary letter, a hire letter, and then start the first day, they can close.
Wow.
Same thing with school teachers. You just graduated, got your degree, and then what's gonna happen is when the summer's over, you got the contract. Let's say you got the 12-month contract or whatever contract, you employed. You just gotta show up. That's what's gonna activate the contract. Just show up. Day one, good to go.
So can you close on your house before you go? Before that teacher goes to, after summer, go to school?
They gotta start the job. We had a lot,
Start the job.
we had a lot of military people that get out. And they're shipping from other states to get a job here. They've got the hire letter, the salary letter. They're on contract because they came over, we did a contract and, you know, we extended it, maybe 60-day contract. They move all their household goods, they start that job on that first week, they go and do it. And like that Friday or the next week, they close in their home. Because the thing is, you can have a hire letter with a start date, but if you never show up, the contract is null and void, right? You gotta show up. Ability to save money, y'all know I'm going through this list, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you buy a home, we gotta get your bank statements. We gotta get the last 60-day bank statements, unless you get some type of government grant, they want the last 6 months. Are they really gonna dig in your background to see how you spend your money, and if they give you the grant, you know, are you gonna be able to make this mortgage payment, right? They also looking at for crazy income, because a lot of the grants is a certain income limit. And there's people that got these side hustles that's getting extra money in their bank account that's not from their W-2 job, and they're gonna count that additional income. So when it comes to saving, we know you gotta save for your down payment. But sometimes the credit might be a little sticky, right? So what the computer system will ask us is, do you have, it's called reserves, right? So if you want, write this word down, reserves, housing reserves. It's a way that you could put in, for example, you got $3,000, $4,000 in your checking savings account, right? that's not gonna be touched for your down payment. It's money that's gonna be left over after the date of closing. If we put in 1 month reserve or 2 month reserve, it could take a manual downgrade and it can flip it to an automatic approve. Or if you are gonna get a manual underwrite, the underwriter says, you know what? I will sign off on this loan if they have 2 months reserves, right? So the ability to repay is you have enough money put back in savings after you close on the home, right? So if you got to put your down payment, you still got to have some money left over in your account that if you ever get into a bind, they might say 2 months reserve. You got 2 months of house payment. So that's 2 months that you can be making your house payment while you're trying to get back up on your feet. Now, here's the thing. When you close on a house, let's say you close on a house May 15th. You don't pay a house payment in the month of May. The month that you close, you don't make a mortgage payment. Then you skip a month. So if you close in May, you don't make a payment in June, your first payment is in July. So by default, you should technically have a full month's house payment, say that, because if you're not paying rent anymore, that money should just be sitting in your bank account.
Right.
Plus you got the 2 months reserve. So theoretically, you could have 3 months. So this is why I recommend that if you do have a job that has a 401k, or maybe you have a Roth IRA. Anybody have a Roth IRA? Anybody can set that up. Now, if you got Bank of America, they can set it up for you. It's a retirement plan that you could just put up to $7,500 a year into that plan. So what I used to do is I take money, put it into my retirement plan, because part of your assets, they want to see how much money is in your retirement plan. It's better to put it there than keep it into your bank, because if it's in your bank and you got that debit card, it's easy for you to spend the money, right? So what I did was I built my reserves up to over 12 months. So now when I go to buy a house, or if you try to buy a rental property, because if you're want to invest in rentals, they typically want 6 months of reserves for that rental property that you're going to buy. And because I kept just putting a little bit of money in there over the years, I built up over 12 months reserves, money that I didn't need to touch. So that made my file strong every time I try to purchase a house. So if you have the ability to just put a little bit of money away, and if you say, I don't want my house payment to be, for example, more than $2,000 a month, try to find a place to stash that money for $20,000 a month, because that ability to repay because of those reserves, that is a big factor in the algorithm. All right, so how do we choose the right bank or mortgage company? Money is money, but not all money is good money, right?
True.
So my thing is, when I borrow money to buy something, here's what I look at to determine if it's a good deal. The least amount of money out of my pocket today, and the least amount of money out of my pocket every time I gotta make a payment. So it's down payment, who can let me have money with the lowest down payment, and who can let me have money with the lowest interest rate. Now, you guys are familiar with the retail banks. Anybody ever heard of Wells Fargo, Chase Bank,
Yeah.
Bank of America, Wood Forest Bank, right? Cadence Bank. You see all the big signs, right? And if it's a sign, you know it comes with a building. That's why they call it retail. Like when you go into the mall, you go into the retail outlet, you buy stuff that's inside the buildings, right? And inside the buildings, they got people, they got furniture, they got equipment. It's a lot of stuff that they got to pay for to keep that company running, right? So those are retail banks. Now, there's another type of bank that's called wholesale banks. Anybody know any wholesale bank you ever heard of? Write this name down. United Wholesale Mortgage. United Wholesale Mortgage, UWM. It's the largest wholesale lender in America, and most people never even heard of it. Anybody ever hear of the Phoenix Suns or the Mercury? Yeah. The man who runs United Wholesale Mortgage, he bought the Phoenix Suns and the Mercury. Now y'all heard of Rocket Mortgage, right?
Yes.
Y'all don't really see no Rocket Mortgages around here, right? They got an online retail division, but they also got a wholesale division, right? And the guy who owns Rocket Mortgage, I think he owns like the Cavaliers. That's how much money these people got. And nobody ever heard of them, because why? They don't believe in having big old buildings with big signs and a bunch of employees. They're just banks that give out mortgage loans, and how they give out money to the people in the local community is through mortgage brokers. We're a mortgage broker. Home Rock Mortgage is a broker. I've got contracts with like maybe 6 to 8 of these big old billion-dollar banks, right? And because they just don't want to pay for employees, they pay us when we help you guys to get their money. Make sense? And because they're wholesale, which means they don't have this footprint around America, their rates typically are 1% lower than if you walk into a Bank of America. We can even be Navy Federal Credit Union, and I'm a member of Navy Federal Credit Union.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And their only thing that they can lend is mortgages. They don't do cars, they don't do checking, savings, CD, only mortgages. So if they don't give out billions of dollars a year in mortgages, they go under. So they have a vested interest of giving money away. And because the wholesale lenders out there, they compete, they're very competitive on their rates. See, Chase and Bank of America, they don't have to compete for your business because you already bank with them.
Yeah.
They're like, I don't have to give you a low rate, we got your car and you're loyal to us, right? These banks, they gotta compete. That's why they like buying football teams and basketball teams because they're very competitive, right? So when you're getting your money, not all money is good money. You should try to find the cheap money, right?
Yeah.
So with our mortgage company, we got access to this. And again, a good loan to me, my personal opinion, asking for the least amount of money out of my pocket today and the least amount of money over the next 30 years if it's a 30-year term. Okay? All right, one other thing. When you get a mortgage, there's a trend going on in this country now because prices are high and people are changing. Like, I'm still shocked. I talk to people and they tell me they got a 30-year-old son living in mom's house on the sofa. And listen, I got a little brother that was adopted, and I think he's probably pushing 30. And guess what? He's at my mama's house. Totally different generation than my generation. My dad said, boy, when you turn 18 or graduate high school, whatever comes first, you're a man, and a man will not take care of another man. Bye. And that's why I left for the Navy. When I signed the paper at 17, I shipped off at 18, right? So we get a lot of parents say, hey, because my son or my daughter is living in my house, and they're not trying to leave anytime soon, and believe it or not, the son make more money than the mom and dad. Because why? He drives for Amazon, right? Or FedEx. These people get paid a lot of money, right? That's why you never see them stressed out. They've always got their music on and they make a lot of money. So they're like, hey, we want to buy a house because this apartment, it just don't work. You got a 30-year-old dude in a 3-bedroom apartment, right? Can we use the son's income to help us buy the house? You can. But here's the catch. They also got to have good credit. If they got bad credit, you're not going to be able to use the income. But if they got good credit, you can stack as many people on that loan as you want. So that's something that's happening now. You got your folks, it's like 50 years old, they got kids that are like 30 years old, and they're combining themselves on the loan so that they can go get a big house. You get that room over there, and then we stay on our side. No big deal because they used to living together, right? So the other spectrum is you got probably the 50-year-old that got the parents that's 70 years old, 80 years old, and they don't got the type of money to live on their own. So, and it don't make sense for your parents to have an apartment that's $1,500 a month, right? You're like, why don't we just go together and get a house? Because some of the houses now they're building for multi-generationals, or we call them mother-in-law suites, right? Where they get their own side of the house, their own bathroom. The room is downstairs, kind of like a private, master bedroom. It's like 2 master bedrooms downstairs, right? So they're building houses to accommodate that because that's the culture in America now, right? So can I put my mom, who's on Social Security, my dad is on disability, can I put them on a loan? You can, but they got to have to do credit. We did that for my mother-in-law. My wife's sister-in-law, got my mother-in-law, got the disability, got my sister-in-law's income. They still qualify for a grant, got them a low interest rate, got a nice little house, and then they didn't have to live in my house no more.
Amen.
Right? Because I got kids. You can't have kids running around when you got 60 and 70-year-olds running around in your house, right? So that's something that can be done, and it is happening all the time in America. It just don't make sense. The houses cost a lot of money, and everything costs more money. It's better to consolidate, live under one roof, and have a little bit of money left over to live. Okay, anybody have any questions about loans, mortgages? No? Okay, what's the score you should have? 640, all right. Let's go into the home search. So, once you got the loan, you're gonna get a piece of paper, it's called a pre-approval, with a cost analysis, which is gonna say, if you buy a house at this price, this is what you need for the down payment, it's what your interest rate's looking like, it's what your closing costs and everything is looking like, and you're gonna be ready to go shopping for a house, okay? Now, when you go looking for a house, you technically could try to go out there and try to find a house on your own. Good luck with that, especially in a city with 8.5 million people, right? Houses popping up all over the place. Or you could use a real estate agent, which is a professional, that's what we do. Like every day, we look at houses almost every day, right? Whether it's in a computer or out in the field looking at houses, right? When you work with a real estate agent that is a realtor, what's the difference between a realtor and a real estate agent? Good question. You got your real estate agent, you got the realtor. What's the difference?
Realtor only does houses. Real estate agent does more than one thing.
I don't think it's no different.
It isn't.
I don't think it's no different.
No? Let me explain. So a real estate agent is someone who has a real estate license that can help a buyer and a seller to buy real estate, help you with the paperwork, help you with the finance, get you the inspections and all that other good stuff, right? A realtor is a person who's part of a trade union. Anybody know what a trade union is? Nobody part of a trade union? Teachers got unions, plumbers got unions, cops got unions, firefighters got unions. A union is a conglomerate of a bunch of people that got the same job. And because there's so many of them that's paying their fees and their dues, there's millions of dollars to advocate on their behalf, but also on behalf of the consumer. So the National Association of Realtors is the largest trade union for real estate agents. So we got to pay a fee every year. They got millions of them. There's 1.5 million realtors, right? Think about it. I pay $450 a year. These people got a lot of money, right? So what they do with that money is they go buy politicians and say, hey, you should do this for people to buy houses so we can sell more houses, right? So they advocate for the consumer, but also they advocate for the real estate agent. And they have their own code of ethics. So when you become a realtor, you're going to subscribe to a way of doing your business that's above and beyond the standard of just the basic law in your state. I think I got it. Yeah, you see that on there? So if you're a realtor, you can wear that. If you're cheap and you don't pay your fees and join, you can't. So not every real estate agent is a realtor, right?
So they have to belong to the association.
You gotta belong. And it's three different groups. It's the national level, National Association of Realtors. Then you got the state level, which is the Texas Association level, right? Just like all the states got their own level. And then you got your local level, let's call it like a city level, right? So we got the Houston Association of Realtors. So in my example, I'm a broker, I'm a member of NAR and TAR, Texas, but also I'm a member of Houston Association, Austin Association, Dallas Association, San Antonio, even Bryan College Station got association, right? So I'm a member of all of these. So you want to work with a realtor because they go to training that's above and beyond than just getting your real estate license. Like we got to do ethics training every 2 years, but also we get higher level documents like contracts. So when we go and show you to buy homes and things like that, we do the paperwork. We got special attorneys that do our paperwork at the Texas level. Okay. So if you're going to buy a house, make sure you're always working with a realtor and ask them, are you a realtor? And if you see that they wear the designation, then you know. Okay. So how do we find the right house? So when you do work with a real estate agent, number one thing you have to understand that the majority of us, we already bought our house, right? We got our house. And we bought what we thought was going to be the best for us, whether it's emotional, logical, or whatever. But we understand what might be good for us, you could probably care less, right? I bought my house in Wood Forest. As soon as I heard they had 13 parks and they had 2 swimming pools and a soccer field, and I'm like, it's like a military base. And I remember growing up on military bases, and I loved it because they had all the amenities. And I said, I want my kids to grow up just like I grew up. That's why I bought over there. But you might not have kids. You might work downtown and say, listen, I want to live close to downtown because, maybe you just don't want to be in traffic. I don't mind driving in traffic if I know my kids got a good life. See? So when it's time for us to go shopping for a home and you working with a salesperson, because that's what we are, we're realtors, we're salespeople, right? We should be probing you, not like probing you. Like probing means asking you questions in sales. Ask you questions, find out what you like, find out what you're thinking, find out about your opinions, find out about some stuff that you may believe that's not true. Remember how I asked about what's the best credit score? We all over the board, right?
Yeah.
But we had to stop and say, listen, this is what you got to focus on. This is going to be the 640 is going to benefit you, right? So we have a communication. We talk with you. Now, that's what a good salesperson does. If you ever remember buying something at the store and you had a good experience, it's probably because they treated you like they would want to be treated. They asked you questions, they presented ideas, and you left with a good feeling like, you know what? I bought this and I don't regret it because I know it's the right thing to do, right? So when you work with a realtor, make sure you have the communication. Don't work with a realtor that just says, yeah, tell me which house you want to look at, and then I'll go open the door. Because you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. Right? You got to have an initial meeting where you can come to a meeting of minds and decide and figure out what is it that you're trying to accomplish. There's nothing worse than helping somebody get a house, and then 6 months later they call and say, I hate this house. I should have never bought this house, right? That's when you know that that person did not have a conversation, right? The real estate agent's like, hey, I'm just trying to make a quick commission. Hey, you want to buy? Let's buy it, right? No. To be in business for 20 plus years and have repeat business is because the person found the right house. But then in the future, something happened. Maybe they had kids. Maybe their kids grew up and they went away and then they want to sell it. But it's not normal to buy a house and then 6 months later you hate the house, right? That means you bought the wrong house, right? So you got to have the communication, and you got to have someone that's truly invested in your future. Like I personally believe that every person should have a house in America. Now I know half the people, oh no, but a house ain't for everybody, and not everybody's responsible. My way of looking at it, if you pay your rent on time, then you can pay your house on time. You don't make money off of rent, you make money off a house. That's just logic. So that's why I thoroughly believe it. And because of my grandmother's testimony, she got, her pension taken away. But thank God she got a reverse mortgage and she didn't have to be poor living under a bridge, right? And have her house taken away because it was not paid off because she kept borrowing money to save her kids, right? Yeah. So I see a house as something that can save you when you get older. And I believe that because I've seen it and I lived it myself in my life. So you got to have somebody that's 1,000% on your side and they truly believe that it's in your best interest. Understand?
Yes.
And if you actually look at one of these documents in here, I know we skipped over when we first started. There's a document in there. You become a client of a real estate company and a realtor. There's 4 minimum duties required by law. And if you look at that first bullet point, what does it say? It's the one that says information about broker services at the top. Let me read it for you. It says, put the interest of the client above all others, including the broker's own interest. So when you work with a real estate person and your client by law, they got to put your best interest first. All right, we're going to talk about this one right here. So you're pre-approved. You sat down with your realtor. You guys come up with a game plan of what you're looking to buy, why you want to buy it, right? Then it's time to go look at homes. So when we find the right house for you, you will have to put a deposit down on that house, plus do some paperwork. It's called a contract to take that house off the market. So you just can't fill out a bunch of paperwork and then say, hey, I fill out the paperwork and then I'm gonna promise to buy this house because I got the pre-approval. No, you gotta put your money where your mouth is, and it's gonna be a small deposit. It's called earnest money. That's another one you could write down, earnest money. Now, here's the thing about earnest money. It's a deposit that you put down once you want to get this house. And when it's time to close, let's say 30 days in the future, because you got to do a bunch of stuff. You got to do your house inspections, the house got appraised by the bank, and there's a bunch of stuff that goes down within that 30 days, right? But whatever deposit you put down, you're just paying a little bit of your down payment up front because the money goes back to you in the form of a down payment. So if your down payment is $9,000 and the earnest money is $1,000, then you already prepaid $1,000. Kind of like buying a house on layaway, right? Anybody remember layaway? Yeah, put a little bit of money down and keep making little payments. So the earnest money in Texas, there is no rule. So I'm using, as a suggestion, a dollar amount or a percentage. So for example, if you buy a resale home, which is a used home, somebody done lived in the house, right? That's a used home. The rule of thumb is 1% of whatever your offer is on that home. So if the house is $290,000 and you make an offer for $280,000, you got to come up with $2,800 when we execute that contract. And you got 3 days to bring that to the title company. That's the people that's going to hold the money while your loan is getting finished, right? So that would be an example of a percentage. Now, the 1,000, which is like a flat fee, we see that more on brand new homes. You might have a builder say, well, here, at this builder is $3,000, right? D.R. Horton, sometimes it's $500. There's a builder, I think it's a Saratoga home. If you're a military vet, I think it's like $100 deposit, right? So it's all over the board. And because we don't know exactly what it is until we find the house, we always advise our clients at least have $1,000 minimum if you're going to buy new, because we can negotiate with the builders. Because we've been working with them for over 20 years. We've sold a lot of houses with the builders. So sometimes we can just say, hey, listen, my client, they don't have the money right now, but can we get away with $500, right? We can make it happen. They'll work with us.
So it's really 1,000.
I would say keep 1,000. But if you're going to buy a used home, like I've got some family that just closed a house in Humble. There's no new houses being built in Humble. So he was at the mercy of resale properties. So he had no choice. And he was pre-approved for like $280,000. He found a house that was $260,000. So he had to come up with $2,600. So based on your pre-approval, if you pre-approve and trying to buy a $400,000 house and it's going to be a resale property, you should add $4,000. It's still negotiable, but at a minimum, you should probably have the 1%. Now, if you're a military veteran, technically you don't have to put no money down. So I've argued and negotiated. Argue and negotiate is kind of like the same word, right? That, hey, why would my guy give you $4,000 when he don't have to come up with a down payment? You're just going to hold his money, right? We'll do 1,000 because he's going to end up getting that back at closing because the law says he don't have to come up with a down payment. So we can argue that point.
Sure.
Yeah, minimum. And if you go new, we'll work with that. I've had some builders that maybe the house won't even be ready for 2 months. I'm like, can we just give you $500 today to take the house off the market? And then every time a man get his paycheck or she get his paycheck, we can just bring in $250 every week. They're like, hey, sound good to me. They went for it. Just never know, right? What do they say? You receive not because you ask not, right? All right. So option fee. Now this is if you buy a resale property, a used home. So an option fee is a small fee that you pay to buy time to change your mind, right? So the rule of thumb when working with us, we're going to try to get away with $200. You give it to the seller, and we're going to try to buy 7 days, 1 week. So you're going to say, I'll give you $200 on top of my deposit. Give me 7 days to rethink my decision. And while I'm rethinking it, I get a home inspector out there. I bring my family out there. I go hang out at night to see if there's gangsters that come out at night, right? So you got the option to cancel. It's your due diligence period, right? So this is something that we do in Texas It's just to give you the right to back out, and it protects your earnest money. You get it back if you change your mind for any reason. Right? You could get inspection done and say, oh, the AC is about to go bad. You got to go get an HVAC guy to come and take a look at it. HVAC guy then comes out and says, you know what? It's bad. You got to pay me $10,000 to fix it. We can negotiate with the seller. Hey, this thing is about to go bad. Give me $10,000 off the price of the house, or give me $10,000 for cash to pay my closing costs. If not, I'll walk away. Inspection for your protection, get an inspection, even on a new home. So there's two things you got to know about the state of Texas. Number one, people that build houses, big old name companies like Lennar. There is no such thing as a general contractor's license in the state of Texas. In almost every other state, you got to take classes. You got to learn about the mechanical, the electrical, the plumbing, frame, slabs. You learn it, and then you got to take a state examination. And if you can't pass it, you cannot build houses. And you got to go through the background checks. Texas is one of the few states, there's no such thing as a general contractor's license. Only the plumbers have a license. The HVAC people have a license. Electricians have a license. Even roofers don't have license. Right? The people that pour the foundation, they don't have no license. So that's why a general contractor is supposed to know everything about everything. So when the trades are doing it, he got the total authority to say, hey, this isn't right. Right? But there's no such thing.
So who sees it? Who oversees it?
That's why you need an inspector. Because guess who does have a license?
The
An
inspector.
inspector.
That's the inspector for whatever builder it is. He inspects the whole
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, you get your own personal inspector.
Okay.
Because your inspector is certified and licensed through the state of Texas. They took the classes, they did the background, and they got to keep taking training to renew their license every couple of years.
So there's no inspector when they're building a house, even though that's not for me.
You can hire your inspector and you can send them out there to check it. So sometimes if you build a house from the ground up, your inspector will go and check the foundation. Once the lumber's up, they check that. The insulation going, they check it. Right? They put everything on, they go and check it. They can do that at every stage of construction. Now the builder's going to say, oh, but we got our own 30-party inspector, blah, 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 blah. That's fine. I've been doing this for 22 years. You can build a $1 million house and I'll send an inspector. I promise you, you're going to find something. Guarantee you're going to find something. It's like a bulldog because he got to know all the codes and everything. And stuff changes. Code changes all the time. Inspectors got to know about it. He might not see everything that's inside the walls,
Right.
but he'll see the house. He'll still find stuff. He'll have drones up on the roof, and if it's a shingle that's popped up or they didn't put the flashing, where there's a pipe coming out, they'll find all that stuff. And they very proud too. They proud enough, but I want to go out and find some of these people's house, right? They make stuff up
They try to
sometimes.
find everything.
They make stuff up. The builder's like, no, we're not in the county or we're not in the city. That's not required out here. And the inspector knows it. They just want to pick it apart, right? So you get an inspector. If you go get a VA loan, you got to get a pest inspector to check for termites. The VA requires that. Once everything looks good on the inspection, or if it doesn't look good, we can renegotiate for some stuff to be fixed, right? Once we get past that, you're like, okay, I'm still want to buy the house. Then you're going to pay a fee for an appraiser. An appraiser works for the bank. Inspector works for you. Appraiser is not doing a full-blown inspection. He's not going up on the roof. He's not binoculars and all that other stuff. He's just going to tell the bank the house is ready to move in. It got the appliance. There's no broken windows, right? The power's turned on. Everything looks good. It's a habitable house. And then he does an evaluation to make sure that if you're going to buy it for $300,000, it's worth $300,000. And then he reports back to the bank. Okay. Another thing, I forgot to tell you this. The builders, they don't have a GC license. The salespeople that work at the builders, they don't have a real estate license like us, but you might find someone like her. She did work for a builder. She did have a real estate license, but they make them turn it off, right? So most people that work for the builders is an employee of the builder. They do not work for you. like a real estate agent works for you. See, when you work with a realtor and you sign a contract, that contract says we work for you and you only. We put your best interest even above our own best interest. But the builder salesperson works for the builder. They're an employee, so they have to put the builder's best interest first. And there is no license through the state for someone that works for the builder. In other states like Florida, to work for a builder, you have to have a real estate license. But in Texas, there's no rule. She worked for a builder, but she was a real estate agent before she worked for the builder, right? So she's a little bit different. But just keep that in mind, because when you work with a realtor, there's certain things in the law that we have to abide by or we lose a license. That's the key word. If we lose our license, how are we gonna feed our kids?
Exactly.
The builder salespeople, they do something wrong, get fired, they just go down the street to the next building, right? That's what they do, right? So if you ever go out to see homes and you speak to the salesperson, they might be dressed like me. They might even talk like me, right? But they do not have a license, and their fiduciary or their duty is to the builder, not to you. Make sense? And I get it. Some of y'all might get happy today, go straight to go look at brand new homes. Don't sign nothing. Tell them that, hey, if you're working with a realtor, tell them you're working with a realtor, you got representation. It's kind of like when a cop pulls you over, right? The cop knows the laws, but the cop is on the side of whoever pays him, whether it's the county or the city, right? He ain't on your side. That's why he said, if you want somebody on your side, you got the right for what? To get an attorney, right? Then the attorney will be on your side, but the cop, he's never on your side. He's going to be on the side of whoever pays him. And I get it, we the taxpayer, but they don't see it that way, right? Okay. So that's the appraisal fee. Now here at the bottom, on that list, it's going to show you the down payment requirements. So if you're a military veteran, you get the VA loan, it's no money down. If you want to live in the country, there's a USDA loan, it's a rural loan by the USDA, it's no money down if you want to live in the country. Believe it or not, the country out here around Houston, it ain't like the country where I'm from in West Virginia, right? Like the country out here is Glendora, New Caney, Waller. Like the country I'm from, we got 60,000 people in the county with one Walmart, right? And we just got a street light, I think probably like maybe 10 years ago, right? So, but any area where the population is probably less than about 10,000 people, then they want to encourage people to move out there. So there's a special loan that's a no money down loan. Okay. FHA is the predominant loan because number one, you get a low rate. It's the low down payment of 3.5%. There is no income restriction. And also the restriction on the price of the house is $542,000. You can buy a $500,000 house with 3.5% down. And then conventional loans typically are non-government insured loans. We do have some 3% down programs. Those loans, typically, you're going to probably put a little bit more money down based on your credit. Also, they have PMI, private mortgage insurance, based on credit, could be a little bit higher than FHA. But the interest rates typically go a little bit higher unless you got the 700 credit scores. So this is like where all the other types of non-governmental loans fall here. I-10 loans is something we do here, bank statement loans, investor loans. We don't really put those on here because most people that come to this class is typically first-time home buyers, right? But there's a whole bunch of different type of loans out there, but these are your main ones right here. Now, for the down payment, when you get these government insured type loans, you can get the down payment from yourself. You can get it from your employer because you work for the employer. So for example, if you go back to your job and say, listen, I'm trying to buy a house. And because I work for you, you could bless me with $9,000 because you already get money from these people. That's your employer. You can get the money, right? You can get it from your 401k. You can also get it from family members in the form of a gift. Yep. Right. So as long as they're family members, they can contribute in the form of a gift. Okay. Now, closing costs are one-time fees that you pay up front on the day of closing. Just like when you buy a car, you pay $50,000 for a car. You got to pay title, tax, and registration. Those are one-time fees, right? So when you buy a home, and I know it's a big range, 1% to 6%. Really, it's about 3%, right? So the reason why I say 6%, because on FHA, whoever you're buying your home from, they can contribute, they could give you up to 6% of the price of your home. You only really need about 3. But sometimes we kind of trick them and give you 6 because if we get a lot of money left over, we can use it to buy your rate down. So sometimes they'll say, hey, we want to make a deal. What do y'all want? I'm like, can we get 6%? Right? So that means if they give you 6%, they lose 6%, right? If you were to pay in cash, probably your closing is like, maybe their fees up front be like 1%. Okay. So, but here's the thing with the closing costs, who can pay it? You can pay it if you got it, but most people don't because they got to get the down payment. The seller can pay it, and even the lender, the bank that you get your money from, they can help you pay those costs as well. Because they got a vested interest in keeping you for like the next 30 days, right? So we got lenders that might like, hey, if this guy gets his loan with us, we'll give him $3,000, $4,000 to help you get that upfront cost paid. Okay. All right. Talked about, okay, so we got 2 questions left. How long is the process? I know a lot of people start beating us up. It's like, hey, my rent's over June 1st. I need to get a house. My question is, hey, did you at least go to my home buying class? Because if they did, they probably got the credit fixed. They got the money saved up. They're like, yeah, no, we didn't do it. I know you kept sending me emails, but no. So here's the thing. It depends on where you at in your position in life. If we got to help you work with the credit, which we help you work with the credit, right? We can't do miracles. We're not Jesus. If you like a 400 credit score, that's going to take you probably 12 months, right? But if you're somewhere like a 550, 580, probably 4 to 6 months, boom, you're going to be in a house with us because we understand how credit works. I just taught you how credit works, right? So that person may take a little bit longer, right? But if you're like, hey, I know I got that 620, I got the 680, I got the 700, I've been working, I can get my tax returns. That person, it's just a matter of doing a loan application, get you pre-approved, having a meeting with an agent, figuring out what is it that you want to buy. And then we're at the mercy of finding that house, right? So if it's new, you could throw a rock in almost any direction and hit brand new neighborhoods, right? And they got so many, like Montgomery County got 2,200 brand new homes right now sitting empty. And the builders just liquidating everything. They making deals, right? Harris County got 3,800. But if it's an area like Jersey Village, ain't nothing new in Jersey Village, right? And everybody wants Klein ISD, but listen, you have to pay a lot of money for houses built in 1979. And the thing is, the older the house is, the more issues that the house have, right? So it just depends. If you're looking for new, you're looking for used. If you're looking for used, it may take a little bit longer because you're at the mercy of the market. You got to have a bunch of people that want to put their house on the market for sale. And let's be honest, the last couple of years, nobody wants to sell their house, especially if they got a rate under 3%. Gas is high, food is high, everything is high. They're like, you know what? I'm going to stick it out and I'm going to stay in this house until I die. So there's a shortage of houses for the used homes. That's why the builders are cranking up so many new homes because nobody wants to sell their house, right? So again, it could be 30 days, 60 days if you're showing us in a position to get pre-approved. Now, if you're on a lease agreement, anybody in a lease agreement? What's your lease up?
No, I'm not.
November.
Is somebody renting? Are you renting?
You renting? Anybody renting? Okay, but you're on a month to month, so you free, but you stuck until November. So here's the thing. When somebody is on a lease, I don't want you to think that you can't do something, especially if a good deal pop up tonight, right? Because there's a thing that's called a lease buyout. So if you're renting from an apartment, by law, they all got the same state, like lease agreement. It's written by the state. And on page 1 or 2, they're going to have a little box on there that's going to say relenting fee, and then another little box that says early termination fee, right? The relenting fee, I call it the re-renting fee, right? It's the re-renting fee. It's 85% of whatever your monthly rent is.
Yeah.
You got to give it to them so they take the money and make the place make ready for the next person, right? Then the early termination, they'll write in how many days. They might say we want a 60-day notice, and then maybe they'll put 2 months rent. So if you add up the re-renting fee, and then you add up the early termination, and let's say it's $4,000. If you are qualified and we found that right house for you today that may not be around in November, All we gotta do is speak with the seller and say, hey, we need $4,000. If you really want to sell this house, we need $4,000 so that we can pay these people off over here. Yeah, we've been doing that for years. But don't think if you're stuck in a lease that you can't get a house, right? Because the thing is, you can't predict the future. And let me tell you what, if the rates start to drop, because they did drop, but they slightly went back up. When rates drop, then there's a run on homes. But there can't be a run on homes if it's not a lot of homes, right? So that's why the rates have stayed kind of somewhat, they're not really high, like high is 7-8%, right? We got people like 5.875. But the thing is, the rates move up and down based on inventory. If you only have this amount of houses for sale, you got to keep the rates high, because if not, you got 1,000 people trying to buy 5 houses. But once you got 1,000 houses, and then you got only 5 people looking to buy, then you lower the rates, so then you get more than 5 people that's looking to buy. It's supply and demand. Across America, there's a shortage of homes, but not in Houston. All right, we got a lot of homes, y'all, a lot of builders. It's an anomaly. That's why people in Texas are being blessed, because we're not suffering like the rest of the country. Right? I got builders like knocking off $60,000 off of houses, buying your rate to 3.99 fixed, and then throwing a Generac in and the appliances in. They doing all kind of crazy stuff.
That's what I want.
And we'll give you money to get out that lease agreement.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want.
Listen, these builders are national billion-dollar companies. They got money. They're not like emotional about a house. They look at houses like numbers, right? They're like, we got to move 500 houses this month. What can we do to offload 500? Sometimes you got to bribe the people to buy.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening right now.
Because sometimes they can't build anymore until they get.
That's it.
sold.
That's it. Because sometimes they get lines of credit or they borrow money to build it, and they can't get no more money until they offload the homes. And the thing is, with the big builders like the D.R. Hortons and the Lennars, they got a stock, right? Their stock moves based on how many homes that they permit. So when they say we're going to permit 1,000, that means they're going down to the county or the city saying, we're registering to build 1,000. If you permit it, you're going to have to build it. So if they go and say, we're going to permit 1,000, and they put that out in the public press release, the stock goes up because the shareholder, hey, we got another 1,000 that they're going to build. But then also their closing numbers. Oh, we just closed 1,000 homes, right? Their stock goes up. They make the money really off the stock. They make it off the house, but they make more money off the stock. Could you imagine if you had 1 million shares and then that stock just jumped $5? You just made $5 million,
Yeah.
right? So they always will protect their stock, even if they have to give the houses away.
So
Yep, they doing it. They've been doing it. They've been doing it. Hey, listen, this Iran thing, it made that gas price, the builders, prices were coming down and gas was coming down, and they overbuilt.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden the gas price, they, oh my God, we got too many houses. We got to offload.
Well, I have a question on the down payment assistance. There are different types. There's the one you said for the county,
County,
and then there's the one for, for the country area.
that's USDA, that's a no money down loan.
Okay, what's DPA's? What area is that for?
So down payment
Harris County.
assistance, Harris County got them. But good luck, because they run out of money. They got millions of people that know about that program, right?
Okay.
But Harris County got a program, the city of Houston got a program, and Montgomery County got a program.
Okay, Harris County City and, okay.
Yep.
Those are the only 3 areas.
But then you got the state of Texas has their own. They got TDHCA and they got TSHAC. These are bond programs where you can get 1, 2, 3, 4, or up to 5%, how much money you need. Now, whatever amount you take, it's a certain interest rate you're gonna get with your mortgage. So they might say if you want 2% down payment, if your house is 200,000 and you get 2%, that's $4,000, right? You might get a rate of 6.25. But you might say you want to get 3% down payment. Now the rate is 6.5. That's how they make the money back, is because they're getting paid off the rate. That's the state bond program.
That's the state.
Yeah.
How do you determine which one you should go?
You sit down with you sit down with a mortgage loan originator. Some of these programs have income limits, some have household limits. When you sit down with a mortgage loan originator, we sit down and we look at everything and say you qualify for these programs. See, when you get a pre-approval from a mortgage company, there's 2 things you're trying to figure out. What's my purchase power? How much can I afford? How much can I buy? And then also the programs you qualify for. Now, the other thing is some home builders, They made their own DPA programs. Like Lennar has it, DR Horton has it, where they say, we got FHA. If you don't have the 3.5%, we'll let you borrow the 3.5% and you can make the payments back over X number of, like 10 years. Some of them will say, if you just pay your mortgage for 36 months, we'll just forgive that down payment that you borrow. Yep. So don't be fooled to think that you got to have a lot of money to buy a home, that you got to have 700 credit scores, because that's not true. Right? We built an entire business for 2 decades off of people that didn't have a lot of money. Right? We're not, God willing, we could sell $1 million houses to $1 million people, but first time home buyers pretty much have been what I've been doing for the last 20 plus years. And to me, that's the majority of people. And y'all need to go back in the community and tell people about this, because here's what happened. When I first got in this business, the average age of a first time home buyer was about 31 years old. How old do you think the average home buyer is, first time home buyer is now?
60.
And that's you went way over. You doubled the number.
I think we're in the
41.
40s now.
41.
Yeah, we're in the 40s now.
41. But here's the thing, if you do a 30-year mortgage and you're 41, how old are you gonna be before your last payment?
76.
You passed the retirement age. And the problem is, it's not that people don't want to buy, they don't think they can buy.
Yeah, I'm trying to recruit a few people. I got some I'm trying to get in. Come on with me.
Yep.
So you don't get on your relatives' nerve. How often do you call to say, you know what? But, when is we ready?
Well, that's an easy one, because if your
When
credit,
they contact you and be like, okay, we're ready, this guy.
no. You got to start with doing the loan application. Like you just did a loan application with us, right?
Yes.
Online. How quick? You did yours already?
I still waiting on find out what's going on.
Well,
My down payment.
mine was kind of complicated. You have to give Miss Millie and me.
You need to get with me, and then I get with Miss Millie.
Oh.
Now, listen, I'm like this.
She ready to move out because she wanna.
Can you eat? I'm right here. I'm right here. No.
This just is gonna wait the flight until you come on, we can do this.
I just feel like when it's time, I know she'll communicate and say, we're ready, Miss Scott. Because normally she'll say.
So the thing is, if it's a down payment situation,
Yeah.
we got to figure out which programs are out there. And things change all the time. 1 minute, there's nothing, and next minute, boom, things pop up. Like there was this, every year this happens, the 1% down conventional loan through United Wholesale Mortgage. Right? When they need more loans, it'll be like a 90-day period. They'll say, hey, 1% down, and they'll cover the other 2% in the down payment assistance. And all you need is 1% down on a conventional loan.
Well, I can tell you one problem I had. I know I had one. I guess they looked at my account and it was supposed to be 500 in there, and it was 305.
You
And
talk about the DPA.
and
for
what happened
Montgomery
was I
County.
didn't have enough in there, but I came back and put it in there. 2 days later, it was.
So you're talking about Montgomery County. So they changed the rule. I don't know, I don't remember when they changed it, but it was recent, because now they changed the rule to slow the people down from getting the grant, because everybody found out about the Montgomery County. And I think it's because we opened our mouth. We getting everybody on the down payment, right? But then we told the builders, and the builders are way bigger than us. So there was a massive run on that grant, right? So to slow it down, what they did a couple of things. One of them is they want to see an average of $500 a month in your bank account, but they get 6 months of bank statements. So when you get that grant, you got to make sure you keep that money in the account. See, this generation today, they don't like keeping money in a bank account. They hide it in the Cash App. It's just these other places where they, like, people get paid from companies, and I still don't understand this, but they put it on a card, but it don't go in your bank account.
Yeah.
It's on some type of a card, right? And sometimes the card don't have a bank statement, right? So it's funny, it's the way people get paid now. It's funny, but just get a regular bank account, put all your money in there, and then just let it accumulate every month. You get a checking plus a saving. Put it in the savings and then let the savings ride. And just keep putting, like, Every paycheck, $100, let it grow, let it grow, let it grow.
And so, I just assumed, I just had to wait, I said, my mom, I think I should wait. And then,
Well, it's an average though. It's an average of 6
well,
months.
I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna be honest with you, Miss Billy, she's a bulldog. And when I say bulldog, she got a business taken care of. She don't hear no, yeah, okay, it was no, we're gonna get you this house. So and that's what I mean, and I love that about her. And I just feel like and maybe because I tell her, I said, you know, Miss Billy, don't worry about it, I'll just give you $400.
Don't kiss your blessing.
She'll be like, you know what, and I think this is what she said to herself, you know what, I'm gonna enjoy that motherfucker right there. Yeah. I'm just, because I do, but I'm excited. I think that's what it is, I'm excited, I watched Mama process on getting her home, and I'm excited. And, I had to stop looking at homes, I said, you know what, I'm gonna trust that.
She really,
And, I just told my mom, give her 6 more months, I said,
so
really, it's like,
how many she wanna have her own place.
Yeah, so that was the depth. They wanted to see an average of a certain amount over a 6 month period, but you could cheat the system. You gotta just put a huge deposit in there. And it's an average over 6 months, but it's gotta be an average of $500 sustainable per month.
When you're saying an average, does it have to be an average, does it land in your savings, or does it matter if it's a direct deposit that comes in your account every month? Just as long as it shows.
So you know how when you get a bank statement and the
Mhm.
cycle ends,
Mhm.
let's say you put 3,000 in
Mm-hmm.
and then you had 2,500 came out and then there's 500 left, right? So they want to see over 6 months that there's an average of 500, not that it's got to be 500 on every bank statement.
Mhm.
So let's say you didn't have 500 in May, but you have 1,500 in the next month, right?
Oh, okay.
So it's got to be a cumulative of the 500 over 6 months.
Oh, okay, it doesn't.
So if you look at it this way, 6 months times 500, they need to see that that's in there on the bottom line over a 6 month spread. But if you just keep putting money in there and let it accumulate in a savings account, you can spend all your money in your regular checking, but just have it where it's building up.
And see, that's what my problem was too, that she had with mine, because I have school account. I have the Navy Federal, and then I have Amazon account that I can keep money in also. So
And that's a bank account?
yeah,
So that does happen a lot.
I hold
When
it,
you-
it's a bank, I get bank statements.
When you do your loan application
I'm a money statement.
and they ask you for your bank statements, don't hold out. It's all your bank statements, right? It's here, look at this one, right? You got to put all your bank statements, all your retirement, because if you don't disclose all of it, and then they turn you down, say, wait a minute, you got $300 to your name every month, they turn you down because you don't have the ability to repay, then you're gonna come back, oh, but I got this other bank account over here. They're gonna say, why'd you try to hide that? You got to give up everything.
And they're gonna sit on your credit for you.
Well, they don't see the bank accounts on there, not the bank account.
Bank account.
And here's another thing.
Sometimes you tell them, y'all need to put everything in the Navy Federal. Sometimes you put everything in the Navy
Yeah.
Federal.
And don't get a check for 1,000 and then go cash it, put 500 in cash and put the other 500 in the bank. See, a lot of people walk around with cash in their pocket because it make them feel good. You gotta put the whole thing in there, don't touch it, and just use your debit card to get it out.